I clearly possessed an SSS-class versatile genetic talent, yet I was still tragically betrayed by my girlfriend, Yua. She colluded with the teammates I trusted most to harvest every single organ and part from my body, simply because the parts of a versatile genetic type can perfectly adapt to anyone. In order to help her male best friend regain his former strength and vigor, Yua did not hesitate to strike me down with lethal intent. Just as Yua was about to remove my final organ, my heart, a terrifying demonic claw, suddenly burst out from underground and crushed my heart into pieces. Right then, a fierce roar echoed out, "What the hell are you screaming for? Do you want to attract the people downstairs?" Immediately after, I felt myself being kicked, nearly falling to my knees. My legs weren't broken. I was instantly stunned. I hurriedly pulled out my phone to check. I had actually reincarnated back to 4 hours before the apocalypse descended. Suddenly, someone grabbed me by the collar and lifted me up. "You actually dare to zone out? You really must be tired of living." 3 middle-aged, burly men appeared before my eyes. The scarred face leading them raised a metal baseball bat and pressed it against my nose. "Don't think this debt wipes clean just because your parents are gone. It's only natural for a son to pay his father's debts. If you don't bring out the money today, I'll break your hands. Let's chop off his pinky finger first, so he knows what we're capable of." His 2 lackeys also mocked me with sneers, continuously taunting me with the watermelon knives in their hands. Looking at this familiar scene playing out before me, an endless rage instantly enveloped me. My father had run up astronomical gambling debts and abandoned my mother and me, hiding who knows where. This scarred face had brought his 2 henchmen to our home to collect the debt. They forced my mother to the point where she jumped off the building to her death. Then they dragged me to the rooftop of the construction site building behind the school. In my past life, they broke my right hand right here, causing me to miss the best golden opportunity to increase my strength. Thinking of this, a fierce, murderous glint erupted from my eyes. Years of living on the edge of a blade made my gaze as piercingly sharp as the Grim Reaper itself. Scarface and his 2 lackeys were shaken by it and shuddered. A wave of shame and anger instantly washed over the 3 of them. They were always the ones ordering others around, so when had they ever been intimidated by someone else? "Screw you! Trying to scare your old man?" Scarface roared and swung a fierce slap toward me. Before the palm could land, I grabbed and twisted his wrist, following up with a heavy punch that smashed into his face like a cannon shot. With a loud thud, Scarface flew backward. Not only was his nose shattered, but his entire face collapsed inward. The immense power caught even me by surprise. In the past, when I was a 3rd stage evolved being, smashing a head with a single punch was nothing strange. But before the apocalypse, I was just a weak, frail shut-in. This Scarface carried a body of pure fat, weighing at least 200 pounds. Could my strength have been boosted upon reincarnation? The 2 lackeys hadn't reacted yet either. This scrawny, weak chicken actually dared to fight back. Scarface collapsed on the ground, screaming in agony. Clutching his nose as blood poured out continuously, he roared, "Kill him for me! You kid dare to hit our boss? I think you're tired of living." The 2 of them raised their watermelon knives and rushed forward. A cold sneer surfaced on my face. At this moment, in my eyes, these attacks were riddled with glaring flaws. My iron fist struck first like cannon fire. The 2 of them only felt their vision go dark before they were smashed to the ground, several of their front teeth breaking off completely. I grabbed the fallen baseball bat and swung it backward, striking both of their knees twice. A sharp cracking sound echoed out. "Didn't you say I was tired of living? Let's see who is tired of living now." I swung the bat again, smashing it hard against their lumbar vertebrae. The lower halves of their bodies instantly lost all sensation. Scarface was suddenly struck with absolute terror. This scrawny guy had actually beaten 2 large, burly men to the point of begging for mercy on the floor. The 2 lackeys were already covered in blood. Holding their heads and crawling on the ground, they begged in panic, "We weren't the ones who pushed your mother to her death?" I picked up a watermelon knife and stepped heavily on one of their chests. "How did my mother die?" A sudden, murderous glint appeared in Scarface's eyes, and he lunged at me fiercely. Without even turning my head, I kicked Scarface away once more. Scared out of their minds, the 2 lackeys cried out, "It was the boss who wanted to extort some extra benefits from her, who knew she would. It really has nothing to do with us. We too didn't do anything." Scarface instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. "Bullshit! You 2 clearly took part as well. Don't push it all onto me." My eyes had already turned completely blood red. "Go to hell!" Squelch! Squelch! The blade instantly sliced through both of their throats. Even if the apocalypse hadn't arrived yet, they had to die. The murderous intent erupting from my body caused Scarface to instinctively crawl backward. "Don't come near me! I just wanted to scare her. Who knew she would jump off the building? I really didn't do anything. Turning my hand, I stabbed violently into Scarface's vital groin area. Out of sheer rage, I used too much force. The watermelon knife snapped right from the middle, grazing the back of my hand and causing a drop of blood to fall onto Scarface's wound. Scarface instantly curled his legs in excruciating agony, rolling around frantically on the ground. I raised the broken knife and plunged it into Scarface's shoulder, twisting it savagely. After that came his arms, his thighs, and his abdomen. "I'll give you money. Just spare me," Scarface pleaded with the last of his strength. This actually reminded me. The apocalypse was coming, and I needed money to gather supplies while I only had 400 yen left in my pocket. This was money I had saved from working part-time. Originally, I had planned to treat Yua to a decent dinner on this day, my birthday. Thinking of Yua, I became consumed with rage again and stabbed another knife into Scarface's waist. "Transfer all your money to me right now." Scarface felt as if he had been granted a massive reprieve. Enduring the agonizing pain, he transferred 30,000 yen over. "Is that enough?" Scarface forced a sycophantic smile. I sneered and said, "It's enough. I'll leave you a whole corpse." A cold gleam flashed from my hand, and in an instant, blood blossomed. Scarface clutched his wound in terror. "You didn't keep your word." It let out a cold laugh. "Why should I keep my word to a beast?" Thinking back to my experiences in my previous life, my eyes turned completely bloodshot. "Yamato, Yua, every single person who ever humiliated or wronged me, I will definitely grind your bones to ashes." Just then, my phone suddenly rang. I pressed the answer button. A sweet, delicate voice immediately came through. "Darling, I'm so sorry. I was supposed to spend your birthday with you today. But I suddenly got a call from my professor asking me to attend an interview. How about I make it up to you tomorrow night? As a reward, I can grant you one small request." Hearing that sweet voice only made me feel incredibly disgusted, wishing I could rip her tongue right out. Yua was the campus belle of the arts department at Haicheng University. On the surface, she was sweet and lovely, but behind the scenes, to secure acting roles, she had long since become the top escort within the university professors' networking circles. In the past, I was deeply devoted to her, and it wasn't until right before my death that I learned the truth about everything. Although my heart yearned to tear her apart and swallow her alive, now was not the time to deal with this wretched woman. I suppressed my burning rage. "Where is your interview location? I'll pick you up tonight." Yua was clearly surprised, but she quickly switched back to a sweet giggle. "Darling, you're so good to me. I'm at the Mariana Hotel, but you can only come after 11 p.m., okay?" I was slightly surprised. This happened to be a place I needed to visit anyway. I could take care of this trash along the way. "I'll be there. You make sure to wait for me." After speaking, I hung up the phone. Just then, the sound of muscle twitching and rubbing against the ground came from behind me. I snapped my head around, and the scene before me was beyond belief. Scarface, who had just died, was actually twitching all over. Then, he suddenly sat up from the ground as black veins rapidly crept across his hideous face. The reanimated Scarface suddenly lunged forward like a ravenous tiger snapping at its prey. I took a step back to dodge the pounce, extending my right foot in the same motion to trip Scarface's right leg. Scarface stumbled and fell flat on his face. I pulled out the metal baseball bat and smashed it hard onto the back of Scarface's head. The massive force caused the back of his head to explode instantly, sending blackish-red blood mixed with white matter splashing outward. Judging from the stiff movements, this was the weakest type of zombie in the early stages. I turned my head to look at the other two. They had not turned into zombies. After the apocalypse arrives, the entire world gamifies and digitizes, making it possible to obtain items from corpses through harvesting. Under my gaze, a prompt for harvesting actually appeared over Scarface's corpse, but unfortunately it was grayed out. I breathed a small sigh of relief. This meant the apocalypse hadn't fully arrived yet. A cold voice suddenly echoed inside my mind. Detected that the player has successfully infected another player. Built-in system data activated. Data stream beginning to invade the player's body, causing preliminary infection. Player's body has not yet digitized. Expansion of infection failed. Please lie prone. The sudden mechanical voice gave me a fright, because this was the system prompt that everyone could hear after the apocalypse descended. But right now, the apocalypse hadn't started yet. Furthermore, invasion, infection. I looked at my hands in horror. There was virus inside my body. Thinking back to that moment before my death, could it be that the virus from that mutant text reincarnated along with me? Am I an infected person now? The enhancement of my physical stats must also be due to the virus. Right now, I am half human and half zombie. Looking at the cut on the back of my hand, it seems my blood had dripped into Scarface's wound back then. Open personal status screen. I attempted to issue a mental command, and a blue panel manifested in front of me. The Doomsday Crucible player profile panel opened. You are mine. You belong to me. Perception, 1-5. Normal human baseline is 10. Perception 1-5, 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 normal human baseline is 10. Seeing the data, my face turned incredibly grim. I really was infected. What surprised me the most was the progenitor/original variant listing in the infection column. Could I be the bioweapon mother carrier? I forced myself to calm down. After observing for 10 minutes, the infection rate and hunger levels did not increase. Because the apocalypse hadn't fully triggered yet, there was no active viral spread. But as soon as the apocalypse officially begins, I will immediately be eroded by the infection. Normally, after humans are infected, they mutate within 24 hours depending on their physical constitution. The stronger the body, the longer they can delay it. With my weak, frail body from the past, I would have mutated within an hour at most. But now, because of the reinforcement brought by the infection, these stats are nearly double those of a normal human. To survive longer under the infection, I must inject an immunity serum before completely turning. I remember that 12 hours after the apocalypse descends, an immunity serum will appear at the Mariana Hotel. Right now, I am not sure if I can last for 12 hours, so I must become a first stage evolved being first to raise my attributes and stall the mutation limit. After washing the blood off my body, I grabbed a crowbar and a large wrench, then rushed into the school supermarket. Under the astonished gazes of everyone there, I began purchasing supplies frantically. After shopping, I had a massive, hearty meal at the cafeteria. Along the way, I slipped into the back kitchen to steal a few boning knives, taping them securely around my belt. At this moment, there were 2 hours left before the start of the apocalypse. Taking a shortcut past the shaded path next to the sports field, I suddenly heard a commotion. "You little brat, let's see where you run today. We're gonna give you a lesson you'll never forget. Keep her mouth covered tightly." I shook my head and walked right past the edge. I didn't have time to play the hero right now. A voice suddenly called out from the crowd, "Oh, isn't this that useless trash, Kazuki? What's with the edgy look? Are you heading out to pick a fight with someone?" I ignored it completely and kept walking straight ahead. "Hey, I'm talking to you, garbage. Looks like your luck is pretty good today. Scarface didn't manage to hunt you down." Hearing these words, I suddenly stopped in my tracks and turned my head to look over. I saw a few motorcycles parked by the edge of the small woods. 3 girls were surrounding a girl wearing a JK school uniform, kicking and punching her. Among them, the prettiest long-haired girl was hitting her the hardest, stamping her high heels violently onto the school-uniformed girl over and over. Roka. She usually threw her weight around the school, relying on her status as Yamato's girl. Back then, tying me to the back of a motorcycle was this woman's brilliant idea. Over a dozen male students stood on the outer perimeter, smoking and eating snacks, chatting and laughing. Yamato stood in the center with his hands in his pockets, a cigarette dangling from his lips as he smirked at me. He spat a thick glob of phlegm right onto my combat boots. "On a big weekend, instead of meeting up with your girlfriend, you're wandering around here instead. Are you trying to create an opportunity for us?" A wave of mocking laughter erupted around him. I smiled faintly back at him. "If you want to go, hurry up. She's right at the Mariana Hotel." Yamato's smile froze instantly. Within those 2 seconds, I had already walked right up to Yamato, smiling like a bright, handsome, sunny boy. "Did you just say you were the one who called Scarface over?" Beneath that warm smile, an almost physical wave of murderous intent radiated out. It sent a sharp shiver straight through Yamato, making him fly into a humiliated rage. "I was the one who told Scarface you were at school. What do you think you can do to me?" "You're just a little brat sired by a deadbeat gambling father. Don't tell me you actually dare to hit me?" Yamato thrust his face forward, slapping his own cheek twice. "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Hit me right here." Several of his lackeys also burst out laughing. "Coward! Do it quickly! Yamato-san is waiting!" My smile grew a few fractions brighter. "Since you insisted." A heavy fist slammed violently into Yamato's face. The colossal force sent him flying backward through the air, crashing headfirst into a motorcycle. Crunch! A motorcycle helmet happened to roll right down to my feet. I picked it up and placed it on my head. "This one is really not bad. I truly have to thank you." The surrounding mockery stopped dead. Everyone looked at the scene before them with faces full of utter disbelief. Yamato sprawled on the ground, tears and saliva smeared all over his face. Usually, whenever this brat Kazuki saw him, he couldn't wait to turn around and run away. Now, he actually dared to lay hands on him and even stole his things. Yamato clutched his face and crawled back up, shouting, "What are you all standing around looking at? If he dies, I'll take the blame." But in the next split second, I pulled out a watermelon knife from my lower back and pressed it directly against Yamato's neck. "Don't move!" I don't want to kill anyone else within these 2 hours. The faint scent of blood gave Yamato a massive jolt. He killed someone! He suddenly felt this watermelon knife looked a bit familiar. Isn't this the weapon belonging to those 2 henchmen under Scarface? Could it be that Kazuki took out all 3 of Scarface's men? Instantly, a bone-chilling dread completely enveloped his body. The people around us didn't notice any of this. One after another, they snatched steel pipes and iron bars from the motorcycles. Hey, you dare touch our boss? Put the knife down, or we'll finish you off. Looking at their expressions, I let out a sigh. How cowardly must I have been in the past for them to be so completely fearless and secure in their arrogance. Roka suddenly turned and walked over, pointing at my nose and cursing. Move that knife away from my man's neck, or I guarantee you won't be able to today. Thud. Right in the middle of her sentence, her vision went dark as my fist smashed into her face without the slightest hesitation. I grabbed the long hair at the back of her head with one hand and slammed her face into the motorcycle headlight. The headlight shattered completely under the immense force. Every single movement was smooth and fluid. The watermelon knife pressed against Yamato's neck hadn't shifted even a millimeter. The entire area instantly fell into a dead silence, with only the automatic alarm of the motorcycle echoing in our ears. I sneered mockingly. Knowing that he is in my hands and you still talk to me like that, are you sick in the head too? Only then did Roka's miserable screams ring out. She tremblingly touched her own face, her hands covered in fresh blood. My face! The painful shrieking snapped the lackeys out of their daze. Was this really that weak, helpless Kazuki? The little brat they used to tie to the back of a motorcycle and drag around for fun? When did he become this ruthless? At that moment, another miserable scream came from behind. The girl in the JK uniform suddenly broke free from her captors, snatched a steel pipe, and smashed it over the head of one of the girls named May. Then she quickly and proactively stood back to back with me. How about we fight our way out together? This move instantly stunned me. This young lady is quite a ruthless person herself. Just then, the girl who had been struck suddenly began to shake and twitch violently all over, as if hit by an electric shock. May, are you okay? The others still thought her brain had just been damaged by the blow. But several lackeys also collapsed to the ground, twitching in the same manner as black veins rapidly crawled up their skin. What are you guys doing? Stop acting crazy and get up, quickly. However, it wasn't just here. Out on the distant sports field, the majority of the people collapsed to the ground and began convulsing at the exact same time. When the girl fell, my pupils contracted. Zombie transformation again. But I hadn't even touched these people. Suddenly, my brow furrowed tightly. Has the apocalypse arrived ahead of schedule? Sure enough, a terrifying aura suddenly enveloped the earth. The moon in the sky rapidly turned blood red, like a massive crimson eye staring bleakly down at every living creature between heaven and earth. A cold, electronic voice echoed in everyone's ears. The apocalypse has descended. World digitization is complete. Universal player functions have been unlocked. 1. Attributes and data can be viewed via vocal command. 2. Each person obtains 3 cubic meters of survival storage space. Harvested items will automatically enter it. 3. Coming into contact with blood through wounds or being bitten will cause infection. Infected individuals will turn into zombies within 24 hours. The stronger the physical constitution, the longer the resistance time, and there is a certain probability of successfully fighting off the infection. 4. Learning to hunt zombies is your only way to survive. 5. Survival supplies will be randomly dropped. Special warning, the first death messenger will descend in 72 hours. There is 1 minute remaining before the apocalypse fully commences. The cold voice made people's blood run cold. Yet aside from that blood moon, nothing else happened. Who is broadcasting that nonsense over the speakers? What kind of death game is this? Look, this countdown is actually moving. Could it be real? Bullshit, you've read too many web novels. Hurry up and take them to the campus hospital. If it's mass poisoning, it'll be too late. The majority of the people didn't take it seriously, but a few individuals had already backed away from those who had collapsed. Suddenly, one of the twitching girls snapped her eyes open. Her pupils had turned into a chilling grayish white, and she bit directly into her boyfriend's arm, tearing away a massive chunk of flesh. Rai, hey, what are you doing? The boy kicked his girlfriend away in terror, but the kick missed its mark. Taking advantage of the opening, his girlfriend pinned him to the ground and bit directly into his Adam's apple, causing blood to splatter everywhere instantly. The boy shoved his girlfriend away violently, clutching his throat as he fled for his life, his eyes filled with sheer horror. But in the next second, the despair in his eyes was replaced by bloodlust. His pupils rapidly turned grayish-white, and he lunged at a classmate who was also running for their life nearby. "Don't bite me! Shin, what's wrong with you? Nina, have you gone crazy? I'm your brother! Help!" Endless screaming and cries for help erupted in every single corner. The world seemed to plunge into hell all at once. Every single person who had been convulsing opened their eyes and lunged at the surrounding humans. "Zombies! They're zombies!" The crowd on the sports field scattered instantly, fleeing frantically in all directions. But the number of zombified students far outnumbered the living. Gathering in groups of 3 to 5, they swarmed individual students. In less than half a minute, the entire sports field turned into a slaughterhouse. "May, what's wrong with you?" The knockdown May suddenly opened her eyes and lunged to bite a nearby girl wearing glasses. The glasses-wearing girl instantly sank to the ground in pain, but she was trembling so violently she didn't even dare to push her away, watching blankly as May tore a large piece of flesh from her leg. May lifted her head, her dead gray pupils staring straight into the eyes of the girl with glasses, chewing and swallowing her flesh right in front of her face as a waterfall of fresh blood spilled from the corners of her mouth. The image sent a shiver straight down one's spine. The terrified girl with glasses could do nothing but scream. Suddenly, May's head exploded, spraying red and white matter all over the glasses girl's face. The girl with glasses opened her eyes tremblingly, seeing only my formidable figure standing before her, along with a blood-stained, heavy wrench. She trembled instinctively, her beautiful big eyes projecting a deeply pitiful look. "No need to thank me." I cast a glance at her long legs. The quality of the beauties in the arts department of Haishang University really left nothing to be desired. Thinking of this, I swung the heavy wrench. Under her stunned, wide-eyed gaze, I smashed her skull to pieces. Compared to beauties, I much prefer to crush anything that poses a threat while it's still in the cradle. Target successfully harvested. Obtained. Zombie mucus X1, zombie eyeball X1, semi-zombified right leg X1. What a pity, no energy fragments. To obtain evolution serums, one had to purchase them using energy fragments or energy crystals, which were the only currencies recognized by the traders. I shifted my attention to another zombie. Name, weakened zombie. Identity, variant. Strength, 4. Agility, 6. Constitution, 5. Perception, 3. Mutation level, LV0. The weakest existence among the variants. Only their sharp teeth could cause some trouble. My eyes lit up. The apocalypse had just descended, so all variants were in their weakest state. Their 4 core attributes combined added up to less than 20, which wasn't even equal to a normal adult. But as time passes, they will grow stronger and stronger, and by then the difficulty of gathering materials will increase exponentially. Now is the absolute best time to gather materials. Suddenly, the snarling of a zombie came from behind me. Just as I grabbed my wrench and turned around, I saw the shadow of a pipe and a flying JK skirt. The girl in the JK uniform slammed her pipe down onto a zombie lackey's head, followed by several more swift, unhesitating strikes. Blood splattered across her pristine white uniform, staining a large portion of it red. But the girl didn't care at all. She raised her head to look at me. "Hey, as a reward, lend me your spare pipe. You're not using it anyway." This was the first time I had ever seen such a fierce girl. She had adapted to the apocalypse almost instantly. I shrugged my shoulders. "If you want to trick me out of gear, at least make up a decent excuse. Or do you think I look weak?" After speaking, I hurled the heavy wrench violently toward the girl. The girl let out a small shriek and instinctively closed her eyes. But the thrown wrench whizzed right past her head, smashing down the zombie that was creeping up behind her. I took a swift stride forward, picked up the wrench, and finished it off with 2 more strikes. Let's see who actually needs help here. HMPH. The girl felt a wave of annoyance inside. Turning her face away, she attempted to harvest the corpse. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as a blue crystal fragment appeared in her hand. "Damn it, what incredible luck." I cursed quietly under my breath. The drop rate for energy fragments was less than 1/3. Yet this JK girl got one on her very first zombie kill. Yamato and his men were currently holding steel pipes, fighting back with everything they had. They had drawn the attention of a massive number of zombies, and the zombies, intently focused on biting, exposed their backs completely to me. I wasn't about to let this rare harvesting opportunity slip by. I charged into the battlefield instantly, cracking open the heads of the zombies one after another. I see how it works." The girl grew excited too, proactively swinging her steel pipe as she lunged at the other zombies. Just as I was preparing to take down a zombie, a sudden gust of wind rushed at my back. A steel pipe slammed down, knocking over the target right in front of my eyes. The girl swung her pipe 2 more times, smashing its head into a pulp. "Hey, young lady, are you stealing my business?" A flush of embarrassment flashed across the girl's face, but without saying a word, she sprinted toward the next target. There were plenty of zombies, so I didn't care about losing this single one. Thud, thud, thud! The heavy wrench in my hand swung like a meteor hammer. These zombies were entirely focused on tearing into the people on the ground, completely oblivious to the threat attacking from behind. One by one, their hindbrains were shattered by my strikes. By this time, the surrounding zombies were also lunging toward our position. Every time I took down a zombie, I harvested it immediately without wasting a single second. In the blink of an eye, over a dozen zombies were piled at my feet. My arms were already feeling slightly sore and numb, but a thrilled look shone in my eyes. This is what it feels like to be strong! The JK girl's physical constitution was only slightly better than an ordinary girl's. Killing 3 zombies in a row had already shaken her hands to the point of numbness, and she stumbled, being pinned to the ground by a zombie. She jammed her steel pipe into its foul, wide-open maw, but she was pinned down tightly and couldn't get back up. Seeing another zombie about to lunge toward her white thighs, she bit her lower lip in frustration. Is this where it ends? Squelch! The zombie lunging at the girl suddenly had its head cracked open. In the next second, the zombie pinning the girl down also had its skull smashed to pieces by a single wrench strike. Young lady, the debt for stealing my prey is officially settled now. My voice carried a hint of mockery. She scrambled up and glared at me fiercely, but with her face completely covered in blood, she didn't even dare to speak. Here's a piece of advice. If you don't want to die, stay out of the way. I let loose completely, and the battlefield instantly became my solo performance. The flying yellow and white matter stained me into a bloody figure, and before I knew it, several more zombie corpses accumulated at my feet, the number rising rapidly. My gloves had long since been soaked through with blood, making them sticky, and the wrench had become incredibly slick. I simply hung the wrench back at my waist and drew 2 boning knives with my hands. Groan! A zombie lunged forward. I stepped sideways to dodge the pounce cleanly, smoothly circling behind it as the boning knife turned into a cold gleam, driving straight into its brain. Another zombie tried to seize the opening to ambush me. I immediately used the zombie I had just slain as a shield to block the attack, while simultaneously plunging the second boning knife straight through the other zombie's eyelid. Crack, crack, crack! I moved back and forth through the zombies with total ease, hitting the weakest parts of their skulls every single time. The zombies on this first day of the apocalypse simply couldn't keep up with my movements at all, being cut down one after another like mere puppets. My movements were like those of a ghostly assassin. Every single thrust was incredibly precise, as if I were custom-tailored specifically for slaughtering zombies. The girl went from being defiant at the beginning to gradually becoming completely dumbfounded. A single person was massacring dozens of zombies without showing the slightest hint of exhaustion. Suddenly, the girl's expression shifted. Look out! 2 zombies were lunging at me from behind. My boning knife happened to be stuck inside the eye socket of the zombie in front of me. Hearing her warning, I let go of it without a moment's hesitation. Snatching the claw hammer from my waist, I swung backward to finish off the lunging zombie, using the momentum to drive an elbow strike into the nose bridge of the other zombie. As it fell, I followed up with 2 hammer strikes. Whenever a weapon got stuck, I would decisively abandon it and switch to the next one. At any given moment, I was surrounded by 3 or 4 zombies, yet it felt as if a tiger had entered a flock of sheep. The zombies around me collapsed in heaps. I drove the blade into the eye socket of the final zombie and twisted hard. The boning knife, unable to withstand the strain, snapped inside the eyelid and collapsed to the ground along with the corpse. All 3 boning knives were completely ruined. The weapons were still far too low grade. Yet I felt a rush of excitement. An ordinary person could absolutely never endure such a fierce, grueling battle, but right now, I was only slightly fatigued. This physical threshold was comparable to a first-stage evolved being. This infection is truly a double-edged sword. Checking my personal status, the attribute panel popped up in front of me. The infection level had risen to 1%, while my hunger level had actually jumped to 8%. I had only been fighting for 10 minutes or so. At this rate, within a dozen hours at most. At this rate, Kazuki would reach 100% infection in a dozen hours at most, and the hunger level also gave him a faint sense of crisis. He needed to get to the library as quickly as possible to find the evolution serum. The girl picked up a butterfly knife from the ground, and finding no pockets anywhere on her outfit, she simply tucked the knife into her chest before hopping onto a motorcycle. Are you coming or not? Kazuki was still reviewing his personal status profile and didn't pay attention. TCH, don't go dying on me! The girl let out a cold, mocking scoff, twisted the throttle, and the motorcycle roared away. Kazuki stared at his watch. Nearly 20 minutes had passed since the Apocalypse Crucible descended. There were only 10 minutes left before the traders arrived. Kazuki checked his survival storage space. He had killed 27 zombies so far, but his luck was poor, yielding only 8 energy fragments. In addition, there were 3 intact zombie ribs, level 0 mutation materials, various blood-stained fabrics, clothes, lighters, props, and so forth. A cluttered pile of useless bloody flesh filled the space. Harvesting yielded items from the target's body, with a random chance to obtain a specific intact body part. Intact zombie ribs were level 0 mutation materials, a common raw material used later for crafting weapons. They weren't useless garbage like the eyeballs, but for now they were of no use, so they could only be stored away temporarily. The energy fragments were still too few, not enough to purchase a Tier 1 evolution serum. Kazuki needed to kill more zombies. Clatter! All the useless clothes and messy bits of flesh were dumped out of the survival space by Kazuki. Eyeballs, severed hands, jaws, and tongues piled up into a small mountain at Kazuki's feet, leaving only the 3 intact zombie ribs behind. Yamato and Roko were sprawled on the ground, yelling frantically. They were lucky enough not to have been bitten, becoming the last living people near the sports field, besides Kazuki and the young girl. But at this moment, they felt Kazuki was far more terrifying than the zombies. Because it wasn't just zombies. Even infected humans were taken care of by him without the slightest hesitation or reluctance, refusing to let anything that posed a threat to him remain by his side. The roaring of zombies still thundered in their ears, and the campus was filled with endless wailing as people in the distance fled for their lives. Yet, in this patch of hell, Kazuki was entirely in his element. The two of them could even see a certain abnormal excitement burning in Kazuki's eyes. They could feel that Kazuki's blood was boiling. He was craving this kind of slaughter in combat, looking exactly like an untiring killing machine. No, a slaughter demon. Was this really the Kazuki in their memories? The same one they had dragged into the restroom and beaten until he wet his pants? Yamato and Roka scrambled up from the ground like madmen and jumped onto their motorcycle. Yamato, let's go quickly! But Yamato was so nervous at this moment that his hands and feet were entirely numb. Even his hand twisting the throttle trembled so much he couldn't apply any strength, and instead his legs buckled, causing both him and the vehicle to crash down into the pool of blood. The commotion on their side drew Kazuki's attention. Kazuki lifted his helmet to breathe, his voice freezing and full of mockery. "Oh, so you two aren't dead yet?" Chapter 7. The Stalker. Seeing Kazuki, Roka, and Yamato felt their stomachs churn again, unable to stop themselves from dry heaving. They vomited while shrinking backward. "Don't kill us! Please spare us!" A foul, pungent liquid flowed out from beneath them. Kazuki's brow furrowed. Yamato's leather jacket and pants were somewhat useful items on his body, and Kazuki had originally planned to kill him and store them in his survival space for future use. But now, it disgusted him completely. What bad luck! Just as he was preparing to finish Yamato off directly, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. "Do you two want to live?" Yamato blanked for a moment. He began to nod his head frantically. "Then help me perform an experiment and let heaven decide whether you should die or not. Put your hand out." Yamato tremblingly raised his hand, only to see Kazuki pull out a watermelon knife, slice open both of their palms, and drip his own blood onto Yamato's wound. The progenitor variant status felt like a thorn in Kazuki's throat. He wanted to understand exactly what kind of thing had infected him. The simplest way was to use his own blood to infect someone else and see what kind of monster they would become after the infection erupted. In the back of his mind, Kazuki always felt his blood wouldn't just turn people into ordinary zombies. The trash in front of him happened to be perfect for recycling. But the moment it dripped on, Yamato began clutching his palm and screaming in agony, his entire body's muscles twitching rapidly and abnormally as black veins crawled from the wound across his whole body. The infection was clearly unstoppable. The infection was far too lethal to the target. It was actively destroying the target. Roka ran away from Yamato's side in absolute terror. She instinctively ran toward Kazuki, but stopped halfway, her gaze full of horror as she stared at him. She didn't know what had happened, but Yamato was absolutely infected by Kazuki. In this scenario, who was the real monster? Kazuki merely stared intently at Yamato. The result he wanted arrived. In the next second, Yamato's pupils turned dead gray, and letting out a zombie-like shriek, he lunged toward Kazuki. This method was ineffective. Could it be that this progenitor variant was itself just a regular zombie? Kazuki smacked his lips, closed his helmet, and finished Yamato off with a single wrench strike. But during the harvest, he suddenly heard the system's voice. Special infected target. Harvesting in progress. Warning. Special data stream detected. Unable to harvest. Initiating self-destruction sequence. Yamato's corpse disintegrated into nothingness on the spot, meaning the targets he infected couldn't be recycled. Kazuki chuckled. Roka was already too terrified to speak, her eyes fixed on Kazuki as if looking at a monster. Seeing Kazuki look at her, she fell to her knees with a thud. I was wrong! Kazuki, please spare me. Everything in the past was my fault. I shouldn't have come up with the idea to let Yamato drag you away with the motorcycle. I promise I won't say a word about what just happened. Please, let me go! But her eyes were filled with utter despair because she already knew Kazuki's greatest secret at this point. How could Kazuki possibly let her live? Kazuki closed the distance, driving Roka even more frantic. No! I don't want to die! I have great skills. I'm not inferior to Yua. Anything she can't do, I can do for you. You will definitely become a powerhouse in the apocalypse. You must need a woman, right? I'm willing to follow you. You can do whatever you want. Watching Roka weeping bitterly before him, Kazuki smiled mockingly. Do you think my blood is the only thing that infects, and other things won't? Roka froze on the spot. In the next second, she clutched her shoulders in terror. I can't be your woman, but except for that, I can help you with anything else. I can. Kazuki shook his head. Being infected by me is your only value to me. After speaking, he was about to drip the blood onto the wound on Roka's forehead. I don't want to die. Stay away. Roka suddenly scrambled up from the ground and fled into the woods like a madwoman. Kazuki's gaze sharpened, and he was about to rush up to finish her off. But just as he took a step, a terrifying intuition suddenly enveloped his heart. His 15 points of perception gave Kazuki an intuition regarding his surroundings that far exceeded ordinary people. If he took another step forward, he would die. Kazuki halted dead in his tracks. His combat instincts made him instantly grip both claw hammers in his hands, and immediately after, Roka's utterly terrified scream echoed from the woods. What on earth is this? Roka, who had just rushed into the woods, saw something that made her stop abruptly, turn around and run, but her foot slipped and she fell flat on the ground. She extended her hand toward Kazuki in sheer terror. Save me! But before Roka could finish her sentence, a tall figure suddenly descended from above and crushed her skull with a single foot. The miserable shriek cut off instantly, leaving only her forward-stretching arm twitching continuously in the air. The moment this thing appeared, Kazuki's body tensed up instinctively. This zombie stood a full 2 meters tall, its bulging muscles tearing right through its clothes, and its hands had formed sharp claws like those of a werewolf, capable of easily puncturing even iron sheets. Right now, it easily ripped Roka's body apart with its claws, and was stuffing a mass of internal organs into its mouth. A section of intestines hung from the corner of its mouth, swinging bloodily up and down with its chewing. Its body was already drenched in blood. It was obvious that the number of students who had died by its hands was not small. A blue window proactively popped up before Kazuki's eyes. Name, Stalker, Identity, Variant, Strength, 17, Agility, 13, Constitution, 15, Perception, 14. Mutation level, LV1. Description: an aberrant species formed when human genes undergo abnormal mutation after being infected by zombies. Possesses a powerful physique far exceeding ordinary zombies. Their keen sense of smell makes them natural hunters. Any prey locked onto by them will face an absolute nightmare. Right now, the Death Crucible had only just descended. The vast majority of variants should be level 0, and a level 1 variant would only appear with an extremely small probability. After reaching level 1, a zombie's physical threshold experiences a massive leap, and the virus inside its body is also reinforced. If a low-level evolved being is infected, they are almost certain to die without an immunity serum. He hadn't expected to run into this kind of thing right at the beginning of the apocalypse. Seeing this creature, Kazuki even took a step back instinctively because he recognized this guy. In his past life, a single stalker became the absolute nightmare of all the survivors at the school. It wantonly slaughtered every survivor it encountered. No matter how well they hid, they would be located by its sharp hearing and keen sense of smell. It ransacked the school's academic buildings and dormitories one by one. Every single time, it had to completely devour the people inside before it was willing to leave. Back then, dozens of survivors set up a trap attempting to slay it, but in the end, every single one of them died beneath the stalker's claws and sharp teeth. Kazuki had hidden in the hallway and witnessed that tragedy with his own eyes. He had managed to escape with his life by hiding inside a restroom and finding a way to mask his scent, which from then on sealed his pathetic, ant-like existence. Right now, it was as if a voice kept whispering in Kazuki's ear, "Run quickly! If you don't run now, it'll be too late." Chapter 8. First Kill, Reward Skill. Kazuki forcefully resisted his instinct to retreat, because he knew that if he turned around and fled at this moment, this stalker would become a nightmare he could never shake off for the rest of his life. In the future, whenever he encountered any enemy, his first thought would be to run. How would that be any different from his past, praying mantis-like self? To become a powerhouse, the very first step must be learning to conquer the fear within his heart. The stalker's attributes completely crushed an ordinary person's, but with Kazuki's post-infection physical stats combined with the experience from his past life, a battle was not necessarily unwinnable. Most importantly, a level 1 variant at this moment was equivalent to a boss. Aside from a level 1 energy crystal, it could also drop various high-grade equipment cards. Killing a stalker in the early stages of the apocalypse would undoubtedly give Kazuki a massive lead. Running away meant merely scraping by to survive. Fighting back was the only way to forge a glimmer of light in the apocalypse. Running away is the instinct of the weak. Since I want to become a powerhouse, I cannot choose to evade. I will step over its corpse to reach a higher tier. Kazuki, summon your courage! The hesitation in Kazuki's eyes condensed into an unwavering determination. He gripped the claw hammers tightly in both hands and resolved not to take another step back. The stalker casually tore a couple of bites from Roka's corpse before tossing it aside, its gaze already locked onto Kazuki. Its dead gray pupils rapidly bloodshot, and the corner of its mouth even curled into the mocking sneer of an apex hunter. Grrr! Along with a roaring growl, the stalker's figure suddenly blurred, turning into a dark shadow as it lunged at Kazuki. Dirt was thrown into the air by its claws during its frantic sprint. The stalker at this moment resembled a racing leopard, its powerful upper-tier biological pressure enough to make any human freeze on the spot out of sheer instinct. But Kazuki forcefully suppressed his inner terror of the stalker, leaning his body slightly forward, and right at the precise instant the stalker closed in to launch its pounce, he flipped to the right. The sharp claws grazed past his shoulder. Crack! The stalker's claws struck down, and the tree trunk directly behind Kazuki exploded instantly, wood chips flying everywhere. Kazuki rapidly stood up after rolling, swinging a hammer backward toward the stalker's hindbrain. This move was both swift and fierce, but the claw hammer failed to shatter the skull and instead bounced right off. The massive rebounding force nearly sent it flying out of Kazuki's grip. Kazuki's gaze turned instantly cold to think that just moments ago, he had used these 2 claw hammers to slaughter dozens of ordinary zombies without a single failure, yet they couldn't even break the stalker's skull. Sure enough, weapons converted from the original reality were completely useless in front of a level 1 variant. Roar! Smashed into a stumble, the stalker crashed into a tree trunk ahead, letting out an enraged howl. It had already devoured over a dozen humans. These mantis-like creatures usually did nothing but scream and flee whenever they saw it, so when had they ever dared to strike back? The stalker flew into a violent rage, its claws sweeping fiercely toward Kazuki. The anger threw it into a frenzy, making its movements even faster than before, to the point of turning slightly blurry in Kazuki's field of vision. Kazuki used the trees and the woods to constantly retreat, while the stalker pursued relentlessly behind him. Trees exploded continuously under the horizontal sweeps of the stalker's claws, and Kazuki was essentially dancing on the edge of a blade. Every single round of engagement was riddled with extreme danger, but Kazuki remained consistently calm. The experience of hunting stalkers from his past life surfaced in his mind, his eyes constantly scanning to locate this stalker's weakness. In the Doomsday Crucible, fighting targets above one's level wasn't impossible, but it generally required rigorous conditions. Flashbangs, smoke grenades, crossbows, firearms, or even tight teamwork. At this moment, Kazuki possessed none of those conditions. He had only 2 claw hammers, a pipe, a wrench, and himself. Kazuki thought continuously in his mind. After comprehensively weighing all the gaps in combat conditions between himself and the enemy, his eyes suddenly lit up. He had thought of it. Roar! The stalker lunged ferociously once more. This time, after a side roll, Kazuki turned swiftly, locked his gaze onto a specific spot, and drove the claw hammer down with all his might. This time, it wasn't the hindbrain, but the side of the stalker's knee. And he didn't use the flat face of the hammer, but the sharp, nail-prying claw on the back. The stalker possessed formidable muscle protecting its entire body, but joints naturally have no muscle protection. This was Kazuki's opportunity. Crack! The claw end embedded itself directly into the stalker's knee joint, and the stalker's forward pounce caused the joint to compress violently, making the claw lodge itself even tighter. This was exactly like a steel rod suddenly jamming into a rapidly spinning gear. The stalker stumbled forward and fell, trying to climb back up to continue its hunt, only to discover that its right leg refused to obey commands entirely. The clawhammer's claw was wedged inside the joint, rendering its right knee joint completely unmovable. At this moment, Kazuki deliberately opened up the distance. Seeing its prey about to escape, the stalker grew increasingly frantic. Instinctively, it kicked off with both legs to launch a pursuit, but its knee joint was ultimately not as hard as a claw hammer forged from metal. With a sharp crack, the stalker's right knee joint was crushed by the wedge of the claw hammer, and its entire body tumbled flat onto the ground once more. An opening! Kazuki lunged violently toward the stalker, leaping onto its back with a swift stride, raising his crowbar high with both hands and driving it fiercely into the stalker's right eye socket. The eyeball exploded, black blood flying everywhere. The stalker's skull was incredibly hard, and the crowbar actually failed to penetrate into the brain, but this was enough to wedge the crowbar firmly inside the stalker's eye socket. Kazuki gripped one end of the crowbar with both hands, instantly using his entire body weight to lean backward along with the crowbar. Since he couldn't smash the skull, he would rip the damn thing open alive. His 15 points of strength were pushed to the absolute threshold at this exact moment. Open up for me! Crack, crack, crack! Along with the crisp, snapping sound of tearing bone, the stalker's right eye socket, along with more than half of its skull, was actually ripped off alive by Kazuki. The crowbar flew out with a small, mangled piece of the eyeball still stuck to it as blackish-red blood sprayed high into the air. At this moment, only a thin, inner layer of the skull still protected the stalker's brain underneath. Even the stalker's howling began to leak out absolute terror. At this moment, it finally felt the approach of death. Both its claws reached frantically behind its head, trying to pull Kazuki down, but it was too late. Die! Dodging the sharp claws grabbing at him, Kazuki raised the crowbar high and drove it down heavily. Squelch! Squelch! The thin inner layer of the skull was pierced directly through, turning the interior into a complete mush instantly. The splashing red and white matter sprayed all over Kazuki's face. The stalker stiffened instantly, every muscle in its body twitching abnormally. After its two claws clawed helplessly in the air a few times, it crashed heavily onto the ground. The stalker was dead. Kazuki stood up from the corpse, covered entirely in blood and white viscous matter. He looked somewhat disheveled, but at this moment his body was trembling uncontrollably out of sheer excitement. He had done it! Using his own strength and the most primitive weapons, he had slain a terrifying stalker. Having lived his life over again, he was no longer that pathetic ant that anyone could humiliate. Just then, the system's cold mechanical voice suddenly echoed in Kazuki's mind. Player has successfully slain a level 1 variant stalker, becoming the first player in the Doomsday Crucible to kill a stalker. Obtain title, The Fearless. Obtain special reward skill, Spiritual Perception. Spiritual Perception. When a special hidden target appears within a 500-meter radius, the player will receive a sensory notification. Hearing the system's cold announcement, Kazuki's eyes lit up instantly. He had obtained a skill. Chapter 9. This feeling is absolutely amazing. Special hidden targets included all unique entities within the Doomsday Crucible game, such as traders, hidden supply drops, hidden equipment, materials, and so forth. All belong to the category of special hidden targets. Even with his reincarnation, Kazuki only remembered the locations of a portion of the special hidden targets. But with spiritual perception, any special hidden target entering a 500-meter radius around Kazuki wouldn't escape his senses. Kazuki suddenly thought of a player from his past life who was known as the Goddess of Fortune on the Crucible Combat Power Leaderboard. Everyone suspected her talent was possessing a lucky constitution, because every single time hidden supplies or a trader appeared, she could always be the first to locate them, thereby accumulating a massive early-stage advantage. Because of this, she became the #1 powerhouse in Haicheng, eventually leading the other players to slay the descending Death Messenger. Looking at it now, she must have been the first player to kill a level 1 variant in the past life, thereby unlocking this exact. Now this skill has landed in my hands. Kazuki was exceptionally excited. With spiritual perception, he would further widen his early-stage advantage. and under the guidance of his past life memories, lay down a baseline even better than the Goddess of Fortunes. He couldn't help but analyze deeper. Those top-tier evolved beings from the apocalypse in his past life must have had similar opportunities to become warlords of their respective regions, thereby challenging the absolute peak of human combat power in the Crucible and uncovering the secrets behind this apocalypse. And in this lifetime, he had already become one of them, even briefly surpassing them. But this is merely the very first stepping stone for my rise in the apocalypse. I will step over countless corpses to ascend to the absolute peak of this doomsday crucible. Every single person who ever humiliated or wronged me, I will pay you back 100-fold. The first one will be you, Yua. Kazuki's heart surged with emotion, his hands gradually tightening. Harvest. Target successfully harvested. Obtained Stalker Claw, level 1 mutation material X2, Stalker Rib, level 1 mutation material X2, Stalker Femur, level 1 mutation material X1, Bone Fragments, level 1 mutation material, level 1 energy crystal X1. Level 1 mutation materials were valued far higher than level 0 materials, but the most important part was that there was a level 1 energy crystal. The money for the evolution serum was now secured. However, Kazuki's brow furrowed. Only this few items? That's not right. In his past life, the Stalker was considered an absolute overlord-tier existence on campus, the nightmare of everyone, and within the Crucible, this was also a mini-boss tier entity. Killing it should have dropped considerably rare equipment, yet this guy gave Kazuki nothing else aside from mutation materials. Perhaps this guy hadn't mutated into its complete form yet. What a pity. Variants also have their respective mutation processes, during which their physical attributes and combat capabilities skyrocket continuously. Only by killing them after their mutation is entirely complete is it possible to obtain the most abundant rewards. But Kazuki didn't regret it either, because if he had let it complete its mutation, given his current attributes and equipment, he honestly might not have been able to take the Stalker down. Kazuki leaned down to pull out the claw hammer wedged into the outer side of the knee. The hammer body had already been deformed by the bone and could no longer be used, so it could only be discarded. Kazuki checked the Stalker's corpse one final time, when suddenly a bizarre sensation surged into his heart. In a daze, Kazuki felt that the Stalker corpse in front of him actually seemed like it would taste quite delicious. The moment this sensation appeared, it gave Kazuki himself a fright. But the feeling disappeared as fast as it had arrived, as if everything were merely Kazuki's hallucination. What's the deal? Before Kazuki could look into it deeper, a cold mechanical voice suddenly appeared right next to his ear. The Doomsday Crucible has been active for 30 minutes. Initiating Trader Deployment Sequence. Traders will begin descending randomly across the Crucible world one after another. Every trader will carry a random batch of supplies for players to purchase. As time progresses in the Crucible, the grade of the traders will grow higher and higher, and the goods sold will become increasingly rare. Friendly tip: each batch of traders will only appear for 4 hours. Furthermore, transactions can only be conducted using energy fragments or energy crystals. If you players want to survive in the Doomsday Crucible, the traders will be an opportunity you cannot afford to miss. The time wasted killing the Stalker was a bit much. Hearing this voice, Kazuki cast all distracting thoughts to the back of his mind, ran out of the woods, mounted his motorcycle, and drove toward the library. Kazuki wasn't too worried, because the traders descended sequentially and wouldn't necessarily be perfectly on time. Besides, there might not even be living people left in the library now, and even if there were, not everyone was like him, capable of hunting down enough energy fragments within 30 minutes. At this moment, the library was left with nothing but darkness and the snarling of zombies. They roamed inside and outside the library, never tiring of searching for food to tear into. Blood was everywhere on the floors and walls, and severed corpse parts lay scattered across the library corridors and reading rooms on various floors. Fresh blood dripped continuously from the stairs. This place had already completely degenerated into a hell. Inside a certain pitch-black room, a dozen or so people were hiding. There were both teachers and students, but they were basically all women, and low-toned, trembling sobbing filled the entire room. The sudden descent of the Doomsday Crucible game left the people inside completely unable to react. 1 second, classmates were studying together, and the next second, someone suddenly lunged at a classmate and bit right through their throat. Initially, there were teachers who wanted to pull the two apart, but who would have expected that the moment they intervened, the two would simultaneously pin the teacher to the ground and begin tearing into them. The infection erupted, and the quiet library turned into a screaming purgatory. These people originally wanted to escape the library, but before they could even go downstairs, they were forced all the way back by the zombies at the stairwell, leaving them with no choice but to hide here. Help! I haven't lived long enough. I want to go back and find my mom. I don't want to stay here. Someone save us. The girls huddled together, weeping. They continuously dialed phone numbers, but whether it was 110, 119, 120, or the campus security office, not a single one could connect. Even their families yielded no news whatsoever, plunging them all into immediate despair. An eyeglasses-wearing boy with a bruised and swollen face pounded frantically on the inner door, screaming hysterically, "You bastards! Give Midori back to me! Give her back!" Unfortunately, the door had been locked tight, and heavy, coarse laughter boomed from inside. Suddenly, the door swung open, and the glasses boy was knocked flat onto the ground by a sudden kick flying from inside. "I'm not gonna kill her anyway!" "What the hell are you screaming out here for? Are you gonna let a man finish his business or not?" The moment this man's voice appeared, the original crying stopped instantly, and everyone stared in absolute terror at the open door. Their fear of the owner of this voice was actually not a bit less than their fear of the zombies outside. Four exceptionally broad-shouldered, burly middle-aged men walked out of the room wearing safety helmets, with two large characters written across their yellow vests. Every single one of them held weapons. Shovels, hammers, and wrenches, each stained with black blood, showing they had already killed zombies. At this moment, each of their faces carried a completely self-satisfied, triumphant laugh. Following behind them, two girls walked out with their heads lowered, their clothes in complete disarray, their messy hair draped over their shoulders, and abnormal flushes across their faces. Anyone could guess exactly what had happened to them. Yet, in front of this scene, not only did no one speak out to condemn them, but the other women shrunk into a tight group out of even greater fear, lowering their heads as if worried the men would notice them. And seeing this scene, the glasses boy on the ground went completely mad, disregarding the pain as he climbed up and lunged at the foreman. "You pack of animals!" But a swift slap immediately sent his glasses flying. The glasses boy tumbled dizzily, and just as he was about to climb back up, a large foot stepped on his face and pinned him to the ground. If it weren't for the few of us, you and your girlfriend would have been eaten by the zombies long ago. The fact that so many of you can still breathe right now is entirely thanks to us. Is it not only fair to collect a little service fee from a couple of girls? The leader, Takeshi, carried a wrench on his shoulder, his face filled with an indescribable smugness. Takeshi and his three fellow workers were laborers building a construction project for the school. They had just finished drinking outside and were preparing to head back to the site for night watch when the apocalypse suddenly erupted. Fortunately, they had weapons in their hands, and furthermore, their talents were heavily biased toward combat. Takeshi had even obtained a talent, Strength Enhancement, which allowed him to passively gain a 5-point attribute bonus to his strength. These talents allowed them to cope calmly as long as they weren't facing a massive horde, chopping through zombies all the way to take refuge in the library. They had even saved this group of students and teachers to hide here. During construction, they could only steal glances from afar at these fair-skinned, beautiful female college students and teachers, and every night when they slept, their dreams were filled with short skirts and white legs. Originally, they understood that both sides belonged to two entirely different worlds and could never have any intersection, but the arrival of the apocalypse gave them an opportunity. With no order, strength was king. Immediately after blocking the doors shut, the four men exposed their true colors, forcing the two most beautiful girls into the inner room. The white-skinned goddesses, who once seemed inviolable in their eyes, were now submitting under their intimidation. And after Takeshi gave that glasses boy a brutal beating, the others shrank back like hedgehogs, not daring to say another single word. This feeling was absolutely amazing. Chapter 10. This guy doesn't seem to be here to court death. The glasses boy beneath his foot was still struggling with all his might. "Midori, don't be afraid. I'll get you out of this place right now. I'll protect you from now on. And I won't let anyone bully you again, I promise." But for some reason, Midori lowered her head, gripping the hem of her skirt tightly. Seeing this scene, the four burly men couldn't help but laugh triumphantly. "What foolish words are you spouting? Ask the two of them yourself. Did we force them? It's clearly completely voluntary on their part. Otherwise, why would your girlfriend rather stand behind us right now instead of returning to your side? The numerous students and teachers were dumbfounded, suddenly realizing that the two female students hadn't run back to them after being despoiled. The glasses boy on the ground froze completely, his gaze toward his girlfriend filled with utter disbelief. No way! Midori isn't that kind of person. It's impossible. I don't believe it. A female teacher in the crowd asked blankly. Midori, Asami, are you two really doing this voluntarily? Not only is it voluntary, but I even have to thank you. Your girlfriend is really quite good, Takeshi sneered lewdly. He reached out, grabbed Midori to pull her in front of him, and roughly pinched her chin up. Hurry up and tell your boyfriend, are you doing this voluntarily? Say it quickly. Midori looked at her boyfriend, tears glistening in her eyes. But then, as if making up her mind, her gaze turned freezing cold. We are doing this voluntarily because they said that as long as we satisfy them, they are willing to take us away tomorrow. I don't want to die here with you. The other girl named Asami also spoke up. That's right. There is nothing to eat or drink in the library, leaving only a dead end. The two of us would rather leave with them. In any case, just consider it as switching to a new boyfriend. The moment these words were spoken, everyone fell completely silent. No one expected this kind of outcome. These two women could actually utter such shameless words. The glasses boy's head buzzed. Suddenly shoving aside Takeshi, who was stepping on him, he lunged in front of his girlfriend. Impossible! You're lying to me! I'll protect you from now on. You don't need to sacrifice yourself to go with him. Slap! To everyone's surprise, before the glasses boy could finish speaking, Midori actually slapped his face. Protect me? What makes you think you can protect me? Where were you when they dragged me inside? Where were you when I was crying and begging you to save me? I wanted to protect you too, but I couldn't beat them. Midori berated hysterically, leaving the glasses boy entirely at a loss for words as tears welled in his eyes. Midori, but I love you. In the glasses boy's hopeful anticipation, Midori should be moved by his deep affection and return to his side. But reality was not like that. All he received was Midori's even more naked and harsh reproach. What goddamn use is your love in the apocalypse? Can it protect me? Can it conjure up food and drink? Your love is completely useless. Right now, whoever can protect me is the one I will follow. I don't care about anything else. I just want to survive at all costs. We are finished. This is fate. Takeshi and the other three men leaned against the wall at their leisure, smirking lewdly. The glasses boy and Midori were both dressed in designer brands, making them absolutely a pair of wealthy kids. Seeing their internal strife gave Takeshi an indescribable satisfaction in his heart. Stealing a wealthy kid's girlfriend and doing good deeds right in front of his face. This feeling couldn't be any better. Something he wouldn't have even dared to dream about in the past. The glasses boy stared with wide eyes, frozen on the spot as if his entire world had completely collapsed. No one stepped forward to comfort him because everyone else had heard a far more terrifying piece of information from the mouths of Midori and Asami. Tomorrow, these four men would leave this place. Once the four burly men left, only they themselves would remain here. With no food, no water, and no decent weapons, they could only sit and wait for death. The terror in the hearts of the numerous students and teachers suddenly began to magnify infinitely, and horror filled the eyes of all the girls. Their expressions, when looking at the two despoiled girls, also changed. Initially, their looks toward the two held pity, disgust, and even relief. Relief that the ones taken away weren't themselves, believing that as long as the four men finished venting, they would be safe. But at this moment, they suddenly felt a bit envious of the two girls. Could you please take me along? I can do anything. A plump girl stood up and actually began to volunteer herself. This reminded the other girls, and one after another, they actively expressed their willingness to go with them, even if it meant paying a small price. But Midori immediately pulled Takeshi to her side, even proactively wrapping her arms around his. No! You promised to protect only the two of us. You are not allowed to look for other women. Asami also clung to Takeshi's other arm. Exactly! If there are too many people, what will you do if you can't manage to protect them all? Just the two of us? Don't bring anyone else. How can the two of you be like this? Have you forgotten who saved you from the study lounge that was full of zombies? Without us, you would have died long ago. Ungrateful. You people. For a moment, a dozen or so girls argued insignificantly. Takeshi and his three companions watched the good show coldly from the side. He and his three brothers had agreed long ago that as soon as dawn broke and the zombies dispersed, they would abandon these people and fight their way out alone. Bringing a few burdens along in the apocalypse was seeking death. Tonight was merely a way to tease them. By giving them a bit of hope, these women would behave and listen obediently. Although the two beauties were quite good, what man would refuse more? Takeshi shoved aside Midori and Asami, stepped forward with a cunning smile, and grabbed that female teacher. "I think you look pretty good. I plan to take the three of you along together. It all depends on how you perform." The female teacher wanted to dodge in fear, but her body's resistance was far too unnoticeable. "Really? Can you take me out together? I think I'm starting to like this apocalypse game." Takeshi laughed wantonly, pulling the female teacher toward the room. But just at this moment, the roar of a motorcycle suddenly echoed from outside. "Sputter, sputter, sputter!" Inside the campus that was teeming with zombie snarls, this sound was extremely distinct, instantly drawing everyone's attention. The crowd blanked at first, then dashed to the window one after another to poke their heads out and look. "Get out of my way!" Takeshi brandished his wrench, driving everyone aside as he squeezed himself to the window. All that could be seen was a piercing headlight speeding along the street from afar toward this direction at an extremely fast pace. The rider showed absolutely no intention of avoiding the zombies along the way, and even actively sent isolated zombies flying, looking exactly like a madman. This is absolutely a madman. Is he afraid the zombies won't be able to find him? Astonishment covered everyone's faces, but at the same time, a trace of gloating appeared on every person's expression. With such a loud noise, it would certainly draw the zombies gathered at the library entrance over there. When that time came, he wouldn't even know how he died. Who knows where this idiot came from? He's truly seeking death. Takeshi shook his head triumphantly, and the others behind him did the same, especially those teachers and students. They actually became faintly excited. They were threatened and controlled by Takeshi, and in order to continue receiving the protection of Takeshi's group, they were destined to be humiliated tonight. Now, seeing someone about to die right before their eyes, everyone suddenly felt a morbid sense of gratification in their hearts. At the very least, someone was far worse off than them. This person was about to die, while they were still alive. Many people even widened their eyes, wanting to watch how the zombie horde would tear this person to shreds. Meanwhile, Takeshi's face was full of pleasant surprise. "Brothers, grab your gear! Once this idiot draws the zombies away, we'll take the opportunity to rush out!" But in the next second, they were completely stunned, because this motorcycle actually showed no sign of slowing down at all, and the rider even raised the wrench in his hand. Thud, thud, haha, thud, thud. The figure swung the wrench. In the instant he crossed paths with the zombies ahead, he shattered their heads, causing the contents to splatter outward like fireworks. Finally, after knocking over two zombies, the motorcycle executed a beautiful tail slide and stopped on the street a distance away from the library, and the figure leapt off the vehicle. Before the two knockdown zombies could even climb up, they were also finished off by the raised large wrench. It was easy and casual, without a single trace of dragged feet. This scene brought the mental delusions of the crowd upstairs to an abrupt halt. Even Takeshi was stunned. Even he couldn't finish off zombies so cleanly and decisively. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. This guy doesn't seem to be here to court death. But in the next second, an even more bizarre thing occurred. Chapter 11. Where did this fool come from? Is he seeking death? This person actually turned around, grabbed the motorcycle throttle, and twisted it downward violently. Vroom, vroom, vroom! The twisting throttle let out a booming, roaring hum, the sound instantly drawing the attention of all the surrounding zombies. The zombies gathered at the library entrance all turned around, and the zombies that were originally wandering around like idiots instantly transformed into lunging, tearing beasts. Every zombie's eyes were filled with bloodlust and greed, exactly like a pack of wolves catching sight of tender meat dripping with blood. Yet the figure remained completely motionless, even taking out a claw hammer with leisure. Everyone upstairs understood. This person really was a total madman, right? But at this moment, Kazuki below had long since entered a state of excitement. After killing the stalker, a confidence he had never possessed before filled him with power. Just moments ago, Kazuki had seen from a distance a pile of zombies at the library entrance, scratching frantically at the glass doors, attempting to rush inside to feast. They were the absolute nightmare of all human players, the source of fear within the Crucible. But right now in front of Kazuki, they were entirely a collection of energy fragments and mutation materials. Not bad. There are only 36 zombies. Any more and there would probably be danger. Gripping the large wrench and claw hammer in his hands, Kazuki's eyes flashed with excitement. Come on, let's have a grand battle. Thud, thud. The large wrench swung in a wide arc and crashed down heavily, striking a zombie square on the bridge of its nose, its half-head exploding on the spot. Kazuki charged into the zombie horde, swinging his dual-wielded weapons in wide arcs to smash back and forth, every single strike cracking open a head. Despite there being dozens of zombies, Kazuki knew that due to the limited physical space around his body, the number of zombies he actually needed to deal with simultaneously was at most 4 or 5. Additionally, the attribute stats of these zombies had a massive gap compared to Kazuki's. Kazuki was like a father beating his sons, a completely one-sided slaughter. Kazuki kept executing his kills, utilizing the open ground in front of the library entrance to fight while retreating, the fallen zombies lining the ground along his path. His heavy breathing caused moisture to begin condensing inside his helmet. Intense fatigue surged from his body wave after wave, and Kazuki's hands grew sore from the smashing, while the claw hammer and wrench had even become deformed. Yet the absolute pleasure of the hunt kept his spirit highly exhilarated, the sounds of fracturing bone rising one after another, while the snarling of the zombies grew weaker by the day. Along with a cracking thud, the final zombie's skull was smashed by Kazuki's claw hammer, the claw end embedding itself directly into this zombie's nose bridge. Kazuki pulled out the claw hammer, and the zombie tumbled backward, a large blood-spraying hole appearing on its face. The light from the 2 rows of solar street lamps along the street reflected his formidable figure. A pitch-black helmet, a backpack behind him, the black blood of zombies staining his entire body, broken library books taped to the outer sides of his limbs, a wrench in his right hand, a claw hammer in his left, and before him lay a vast area of zombie corpses he had chopped down. The black blood of the zombies flowed and gathered into a massive pool, reflecting a chilling white light beneath the street lamps. From the exact instant Kazuki began his slaughter, that group of people upstairs fell into a complete stupor, and even Takeshi opened his mouth wide in astonishment. He could handle facing 1 or 2 zombies, but when facing a horde of zombies, he could only run for his life. Being a step slower than others meant becoming food for the zombies. Yet this guy in front of them was actually single-handedly crushing a whole horde. In front of him, the zombies were exactly like bursting juicy peaches, without a single shred of threat from beginning to end. This scene shocked everyone beyond description. Is this person a monster? Midori turned and ran toward the room door, pushing away the things blocking it. And the crowd also reacted instantly, rushing up one after another to move the items blocking the entrance. If there was such a powerhouse, he would certainly be able to take them away. Every single person thought this way. Kazuki continuously conducted his harvests. The harvest was highly bountiful. His hands gained over a dozen more energy fragments, and he also obtained quite a few various materials. Suddenly, while harvesting a corpse, a flash of golden light erupted from the body. Harvested Level 0 card, KFO Family Bucket X1. KFO Family Bucket Level 0 card. Upon usage, you will receive a KFO Family Bucket containing a roasted chicken leg burger, 2 pieces of original recipe chicken, 4 pieces of hot and spicy chicken wings, 2 pieces of New Orleans roasted wings, 2 Portuguese egg tarts, and a classic 1.25L bottle of Pepsi. During the harvest, one was 100% guaranteed to obtain the items present on the corpse, with a certain probability of obtaining valuable tissues and organs from the corpse, and an extremely small probability of randomly obtaining various cards. Food, tools, special materials, weapons, equipment, vehicles. Anything could potentially appear in the form of a card. A 3 cubic meter survival space couldn't fit a car, but if it were a car card, it could be easily stored inside. Furthermore, certain things even possessed additional bonuses that real-world items lacked. This gave all cards a unique strategic value within the Doomsday Crucible game. Although this Level 0 KFO Family Bucket card didn't have any additional bonuses, being able to have a full meal of fried chicken in the apocalypse could already be considered top-tier enjoyment. Good stuff. Kazuki stored the card inside his survival space. The claw hammer was already completely ruined, and the wrench was also severely distorted. Continuing to use them might very well cause issues at a critical moment. Kazuki decisively abandoned both, drew his crowbar, used the torn clothes gathered from his harvest to wipe the surface of his windbreaker clean, and walked into the library. The zombies inside the library lobby had already been drawn out and killed by Kazuki. The dim lights overhead flickered, and dried bloody handprints were everywhere across the floors and walls, with even the ceiling stained by splashing blood. However, there weren't many corpses on the ground. Kazuki's expression tightened slightly. This indicated that the players bitten to death had all turned into zombies, meaning there would likely be a substantial harvest inside the building. Kazuki licked his lips and quickly climbed the stairs. Roar! There were still quite a few zombies inside the library, but they were absolutely no match for Kazuki. Holding his crowbar, Kazuki cleared his way through the corridors, quickly ascending to the 5th floor. But the moment he arrived here, he was jolted by a thick, overwhelming stench of blood. The school had several large study lounges on the 5th floor of the library, capable of holding hundreds of people. Before the arrival of the apocalypse, this place was already packed to capacity, and the number of zombies on this floor could be conservatively estimated to be at least 300 to 400. Meanwhile, that golden light belonging to the traitor was right behind the corner across the corridor. Kazuki moved forward carefully, minimizing his sounds as much as possible. Although his current physical threshold completely crushed ordinary zombies, attempting to take on a zombie horde whose numbers reached 3 digits would still be seeking death. Ahead was the first study lounge. Low snarls from the zombies kept echoing from inside the wide-open doors. Kazuki squatted outside the door and quietly peeked half his head out. The zombies inside the classroom were densely packed, currently in a targetless standby state. Taking advantage of an opening, he crossed the doorway without being detected by the zombies. Crouching low, he continued to advance using the walls for cover. Passing several classrooms in a row without any danger, he had already reached the latter section of the corridor. That golden light grew increasingly distinct, right behind the corridor corner ahead. If he remembered correctly, that area should be the women's restroom on this floor, a mere dozens of meters away. Just as Kazuki was preparing to rush over in a single breath, rapid zombie shrieks suddenly echoed from the corner ahead, followed by the distinct sound of zombies dragging their heels as they walked, rapidly closing in toward this direction. There was also the terrified scream of a woman. "Everyone run quickly! These monsters are rushing over!" Hearing this, Kazuki instantly cursed under his breath. Where the hell did this idiot come from? Are they seeking death? Chapter 12. He must take responsibility for this matter. Rapid human footsteps appeared on the other side of the corridor. Midori was fleeing for her life at the absolute front, with Takeshi's group of 4 and the other teachers and students right behind her, though they were already short a few people. Meanwhile, the zombies at the rear were surrounding something, bending down to feed, as agonizing and desperate wails echoed from within. This sound instantly caused the zombies behind them to lunge forward with even greater excitement. Catching sight of Kazuki, Takeshi and the others immediately showed wild ecstasy. "Big brother, save us quickly! We came down specifically to seek refuge with you." Midori immediately accelerated to charge toward Kazuki, but right after, she was knocked down from behind, her ankle snapping with a loud crack. The piercing, intense pain caused her face to turn abruptly pale. "Get out of the way!" Takeshi shoved Midori aside, taking a giant stride to rush to the very front, and the fellows behind him rushed past Midori's side one after another. Midori tried to get up several times but was knocked down from behind each time, falling to the very back of the line in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the zombies behind had already locked their attention onto them once more, and Midori's face filled with utter despair. She looked toward Kazuki with hopeful eyes. "Save me! I don't want to die!" As a result, right after she finished speaking, she saw Kazuki charging toward her side. She was almost on the verge of weeping with joy. Kazuki's formidable combat figure was still vividly displayed before their eyes. There were only a dozen or so zombies behind them, so Kazuki would certainly be able to handle them easily. At this moment, in Midori's eyes, Kazuki was her hero. Perhaps he was some simp who recognized her, and seeing her current pitiful appearance, his instinct was to rush up and protect her. That would be absolutely wonderful. But in reality, Kazuki felt like killing Midori himself right now. This stupid woman, because of that loud shout of hers, he could clearly hear that the zombies behind them had already begun to riot, and it wouldn't be long before they rushed out of the classrooms to slaughter them. There were a full several hundred zombies behind them, while there were only a dozen or so in front. Clearly, this way was the only way out. Not to mention, the traitor was right behind the corner. Seeing Kazuki charging toward him, Takeshi was so excited he wanted to wave his hand. But Kazuki rushed past everyone without the slightest hesitation, plunging straight toward the zombies behind them. Midori watched with narrowed eyes as Kazuki charged past her, his crowbar driving forward with a single thrust to pierce right through the skull of a zombie lunging at her, kicking that zombie away to crash into and knock down the other zombies behind it. Kazuki took the opportunity to charge into the zombie group, deploying a harvesting mode with his crowbar, every single thrust accurately inserting into an eye socket with an efficiency that was terrifyingly high. Blood splattered onto Midori's face, causing her cheeks to turn rapidly flushed after her initial daze. "He came to save me! He really came to save me!" In an instant, Midori's heart was completely enveloped by emotion, unable to figure out which simp this was, but resolving that she must make good use of him. He would certainly be able to give her a greater sense of security than Takeshi and the others. But in the next second, the doors of several classrooms along the corridor were slammed open with a loud bang, and a tidal surge of zombies rushed into the corridor like water bursting through a sluice gate. Hundreds of pairs of dead gray pupils resembled the eyes of a wolf pack under the dim, flickering lights, staring dead at the spot. At this moment, everyone's head buzzed. Kazuki wasn't helping them. He was merely trying to avoid these creatures. Oh my god! Takeshi, who was originally rushing at the very front, executed a sharp turn and ran backward, and everyone turned around to run frantically. But one of Takeshi's companions slipped and fell flat on the ground. "Save me!" He extended his hand toward his companions in terror, seeking help, but not a single person gave him a hand, and he was immediately submerged by the zombie horde. Numerous zombies lunged onto his body, burying him completely. And under the tearing bites of sharp teeth, this person was instantly covered in mangled flesh. That hand, striving to survive, still tried hard to stretch forward to grab onto something, but was caught by several zombies that began to feed on it wantonly. At this moment, Kazuki paid no attention whatsoever to anything behind him, focusing solely on clearing the zombies ahead at his fastest speed, his crowbar thrusting, stabbing, and pulling out as the resulting splattered flesh flew around, painting the walls into a bloody corridor. Behind him, Takeshi and the others were all staring, dumbfounded. Seeing Kazuki slaughtering zombies at close range was far more direct than viewing it from afar upstairs. For a moment, they actually couldn't distinguish whether the terrifying ones were the zombies, or the Kazuki before their eyes. Ha! The final zombie was slaughtered by Kazuki. Kazuki took off at a frantic run, charging past the corner, never casting a single glance back at Midori on the ground from beginning to end. The crowd rushed past Midori's side once more at this moment, and still no one helped her. "No, don't leave me behind." Midori struggled to stand up, grabbing onto the arm of her ex-boyfriend, the glasses boy, in a tight grip. "Please, honey, give me a hand. I don't want to die." A trace of resolution flashed across the glasses boy's face, but Midori's desolate gaze still made his heart yield to pity. "Let's go together." The glasses boy propped Midori up, about to run forward. Right after he spoke, Midori grabbed the glasses boy's shoulder and suddenly threw him with immense force toward the zombies lunging from behind. The desolation in her eyes was rapidly covered by freezing cold. "Thank you. This time, use your life to save me." After speaking, she forced herself to endure the intense pain, limping and running forward as fast as she could. The glasses boy fell backward in astonishment and was subsequently submerged by the tidal surge of zombies, torn into shards. Until his death, he couldn't understand why Midori could be so cold-hearted. "I can do it. Midori, you can definitely do it." Miserable shrieks and the tearing bites of zombies echoed from behind, causing Midori to forget the intense pain in her right foot, running faster than she ever had at any point in the past, actually catching up bit by bit with the speed of the others. Kazuki, who was at the absolute front, was the first to charge into the restroom, delivering a backward kick to slam the door shut without a single shred of hesitation. Whether that bunch of people outside lived or died, he couldn't care less. Without them, he wouldn't have had so many troubles. But just in the exact instant the restroom door was about to close, a wrench suddenly inserted into the gap. "Brother, you're not playing fair! Are you trying to get us killed?" Takeshi roared in fury, beginning to batter against the door. Kazuki silently noted what a pity it was, but without opening the door under the impact of the dozen or so people outside, he wouldn't be able to keep the door closed either. No longer blocking the doorway, the group of people poured into the restroom like fish entering a net, but at this moment, the zombies behind were about to close in. If they didn't close the door now, there would be no more chance. "Wait for me! I beg of you all!" Midori was still trying to limp run toward this direction, her sorrowful gaze enough to make anyone feel pity. As long as he was a man, her look would awaken the protective instinct within his heart, making him want to hold her in his arms like a small kitten. There was time. There was absolutely enough time. Fortunately, I threw him out as bait in time, otherwise I would be dead for sure. As long as I stay with him, I will definitely be able to survive, Midori kept encouraging herself in her heart. She was still extremely confident in certain personal talents of hers, but just as Midori was about to rush through the door with smug satisfaction, Takeshi suddenly appeared at the doorway and kicked her squarely in the stomach, knocking her back into a cluster of zombies behind her. He used the opportunity to slam the restroom door shut with a loud crash. Midori fell into the zombie horde in utter terror. At her final moment, she only saw Takeshi's cold, mocking eyes and the tightly sealed restroom door, No! Midori still wanted to struggle to her feet, but in the next second, a zombie grabbed her long hair from behind and dragged her down. Sharp teeth instantly bit into her smooth shoulder, and even more zombies pounced onto Midori, tearing and biting at her body. They did not spare a single spot. Her arms, her thighs, her chest. Midori could even clearly feel the sensation of sharp teeth scraping and gnawing against her bones. The excruciating, torturous pain made her want to scream at the top of her lungs. But suddenly, a zombie bit through her windpipe, causing blood to gush and flood back into her lungs. An indescribable suffocation completely blocked all her wails inside her throat. Despair, nothing but despair remained. Why didn't they give her even a single chance? She had clearly done so well, so why couldn't she survive? It wasn't fair! Inside the closed restroom, the door was being pounded by zombies, their sharp claws constantly scratching against the outside, making a non-stop thudding sound. The crowd hurriedly looked for anything that could block the door, but how could there be such things in a restroom? Thud, thud, thud. The violent pounding caused the nails on the door to loosen visibly to the naked eye. Everyone prop up the door together! Takeshi gave the order, and all the teachers and students rushed forward to press their shoulders against the door. But there were hundreds of zombies outside. Knowing that prey was inside, their frantic onslaught would break the door down sooner or later. Everyone's eyes began to show despair. Kazuki stared at Takeshi, suddenly feeling that this person looked a bit familiar, though he couldn't recall where he had seen him in his past life. Don't just stand there watching. Come help. Are you waiting for the zombies to break in so we can all die together? Takeshi turned around and roared angrily at Kazuki. Everyone also turned their heads to look at Kazuki, their eyes filled with hostility. Originally, they were hiding safely in the safe zone upstairs. Although they were thirsty and hungry, they had blocked the doors securely with chairs and didn't have to worry about zombies. It was only because they saw Kazuki's strength in slaughtering zombies like cutting vegetables that they decided to risk rushing out of the safe zone, hoping Kazuki would lead them out of here. Who could have guessed that the library not only hid so many zombies, but Kazuki didn't care about their lives at all when he saw them, ultimately leaving them cornered into the restroom by the zombie horde. A single thought now occupied everyone's mind. If it weren't for Kazuki's arrival, they wouldn't have stepped a single foot out of that room. They could have stayed safely until dawn. Once it was dawn, the zombies would surely leave. This was all Kazuki's fault. It was his arrival that brought everyone down to this point. They even felt that Kazuki must have been the one to anger the zombies in the classrooms, completely forgetting that their own screams were the true culprit. At this moment, everyone blamed their misfortune on Kazuki. Kazuki had to take responsibility for this matter. Chapter 13, Level 1 Evolver. Hey, for a big man to let us few girls block the door for you? Isn't that a bit too much? Asami spoke up, immediately shifting the massive blame onto Kazuki. The emotions of the others were instantly stirred up as well. Are you a man? Hurry up and help. If we can't hold them back and the zombies break in, everyone dies. A slender female teacher had also rushed up, exerting all her strength to prop up the door. She lectured, I don't know which department student you are, but since you are standing here, you should contribute. Get over here right now. Do you hear me? The female teacher could tell at a glance that Kazuki was a student. As a teacher facing a student, she naturally possessed an innate sense of superiority, unconsciously adopting a commanding tone. She didn't dare to resist Takeshi, but when facing a student, her instinctual pride as a teacher emerged. After all, within the school, except for those students with exceptional family backgrounds, which student didn't follow a teacher's words completely? A person like Kazuki clearly didn't look like a child from a wealthy family. This kind of person was destined to be ordered around at school. You're insane. Kazuki dropped those two words, turned around and walked away. The teacher wanted to lecture him further, but the force of the zombies slamming against the door increased drastically, leaving everyone with no spare energy to worry about Kazuki. Kazuki walked inward alone, searching for the traitor's trace. Spiritual perception activated, and the entire female restroom was bathed in golden light. However, spiritual perception would only display the approximate location of the hidden target. As for where exactly it was in the room, Kazuki still needed to look for it himself. One by one, Kazuki pushed open the restroom cubicles, finally finding the white-robed, masked person standing quietly in the innermost cubicle. Level 0 Traitor. A gleam of excitement flashed in Kazuki's eyes. He pulled out an energy fragment and handed it over. Level 0 Trader energy fragment detected. Consume 1 energy fragment to unlock the trading function. Do you wish to unlock? Unlock. With a soft sound, the energy crystal in Kazuki's hand vanished, and simultaneously, The merchandise window expanded before him. All the items sold by the trader were displayed in the form of cards. 500 milliliters mineral water, level 0 card. Upon usage, you will obtain 1,500 milliliters bottle of Nongfu Spring. Taste better when chilled. Price, 3 energy fragments. Self-heating rice, level 0 card. Upon usage, you will obtain 1 portion of an unknown brand of self-heating rice. The portion size is sufficient to fully satisfy an adult. Price, 3 energy fragments. Simple dagger, level 0 card, X1. Upon usage, you will obtain a simple dagger. Medium sharpness. Price, 5 energy fragments. Ordinary leather jacket, level 0 card. Kazuki scrolled down rapidly, and sure enough, there was an evolution item. Evolution serum, level 1 card. Upon usage, you will obtain 1 vial of level 1 evolution serum. Drinking it allows the player to become a Tier 1 evolver, and their physical fitness will undergo a qualitative leap. Price, 50 energy fragments. 50 energy fragments was already an astounding fortune in the early days of the apocalypse. After all, the drop rate for energy fragments was only around 1/3, meaning one had to kill 150 zombies to hoard enough. If Kazuki hadn't killed the stalker, he wouldn't have enough either. Kazuki pulled out the level 1 energy crystal to exchange for the evolution serum. The icon of the evolution serum turned gray and was stamped with the word "Sold out." System. Level 1 energy crystal detected, decomposing into 100 energy fragments, consuming 50 energy fragments. Level 1 evolution serum card acquired. Upon usage, a purple vial appeared in his hand. Kazuki drank it, and a warm current surged throughout his entire body. System. Player detected consuming level 1 evolution serum. Optimizing physical attributes. Congratulations, player Kazuki. You have become a level 1 evolver. Your physical fitness has been significantly improved. Name, Kazuki. Identity, Doomsday Player. Gender, male. Strength, 21. Agility, 17. Physique, 23. Perception, 17. Evolution level, LV1. Talent, all-around genotype. Balanced growth across all 4 dimensions. Status, infected. Original xenomorph infection level 2. Hunger level, 14%. A powerful sensation flooded his entire body, his physical fitness significantly enhanced. There was no manual stat allocation feature here. After anyone consumed the evolution serum, the Doomsday Crucible system automatically boosted the 4 physical attributes based on a comprehensive analysis of the player's original stats, genes, and other conditions. Some people were naturally inclined toward strength, some toward agility, while academic aces who excelled at using their brains would see a massive boost in perception. At this moment, the talent of Kazuki's all-around genotype manifested. The all-around genotype not only allowed Kazuki's 4 basic attributes to improve comprehensively, but also granted him more attribute points than others every single time. This was also Kazuki's greatest secret. As long as he could keep growing, he would slowly surpass everyone of the same tier. But unfortunately, in his past life, Kazuki had missed the precious growth opportunities of the early apocalypse, was betrayed by Yua, and ultimately didn't even leave a whole corpse. He fiercely swung 2 punches, producing a whistling sound through the air. Kazuki's eyes flashed with a strange excitement. The combination of the original xenomorph infection and the level 1 evolver upgrade brought his strength to 21, slightly higher than that of the previous stalker. His other attributes completely surpassed it. This meant that if Kazuki encountered a stalker again, he could win with absolute dominance. A physique of 23 also gave Kazuki a much stronger resistance to the infection. Not only would it resist the infection from level 0 variants, but the spreading speed of the original xenomorph infection would also be drastically reduced. The next goal was the immune vaccine at the Mariana Hotel. As long as he obtained that, the infection crisis would be resolved, Kazuki muttered to himself. Before that, he had to upgrade his equipment as much as possible. Most items sold by a level 0 trader were level 0 goods, with rare level 1 items. The level 1 evolution serum was already the top-tier merchandise available at this moment. But as he scrolled to the middle section, something caught his eye. Kukri Machete, level 0 card. Upon usage, you will obtain a Kukri Machete. Forged through military craftsmanship, it cuts iron like butter. Price, 12 energy fragments. Kazuki's eyes lit up. The Kukri Machete, because of its distinct curve, was also known as a dog-leg knife. It was one of the most lethal bladed weapons. A single strike could easily decapitate a wild buffalo. This knife was practically a god-tier weapon for slaughtering zombies at this stage, not to mention that Kazuki was already a master at using blades in his past life. His eyes were entirely glued to this kukri machete. Purchase. A black, leather-sheathed kukri machete appeared in his hand. A wooden handle, a silver blade gleaming with Damascus steel patterns. As a weapons expert, Kazuki could tell with a single glance that the hardness and toughness of this blade made it a premium choice among level 0 weapons. Good stuff. Kazuki clipped the kukri machete to his waist. It wasn't that Kazuki didn't want to store the weapon inside his survival space, but rather that summoning it out again incurred a slight delay. In a rapidly changing battle, that split-second delay could cost a life. He continued to scroll. With the energy fragments Kazuki possessed, it was enough to sweep out almost everything on this trader. Meanwhile, the onslaught of the zombies at the door came to a temporary halt. At this stage, the zombies' intelligence was low. After pounding for a while without success, they stopped attacking and entered a wandering standby state. The exhausted crowd at the door collapsed. At this moment, even those little princesses didn't care about the water stains and stench on the restroom floor. Starving and parched, they scrambled to the only 2 sinks to gulp down water. After drinking their fill, they sat against the restroom door on the cold porcelain tiles, panting heavily. The restroom was filled with the sound of girls weeping, though they suppressed it, not daring to make too loud a noise. The room had already split into 2 clearly distinct groups of people. One was the group of students and teachers led by the female teacher, and the other was the construction trio led by Takeshi. Chapter 14. Are you going to shut up yourself, or should I teach you how? Asami was gripping Takeshi's collar, demanding answers through her tears. Why did you kill Midori? You promised that as long as we stayed with you, you'd protect the 2 of us. Why didn't you keep your word? Before Asami could finish, Takeshi pried her hands off, raised his hand, and slapped her across the face. Asami clutched her face and fell to the ground. What are you screaming for? Her leg was broken. Is that my fault? With so many zombies, how was I supposed to save her? If I hadn't been decisive and kicked her out to distract the zombies, the door wouldn't have closed and we'd all be dead. Besides, how do I know if she was infected or not? If you keep nagging me, I'll throw you out to feed the zombies too, and I can take the chance to run away. Takeshi's angry roar immediately caused the zombies outside the door to start howling again. A few heavy thuds slammed against the main door, scaring the teachers and students into rushing forward to block it. You're a murderer! Asami clutched her face, sitting on the ground weeping bitterly. She wasn't genuinely protesting on behalf of the dead Midori. It was merely a case of the fox mourning the death of the hare. She was terrified that she would meet the exact same end. However, the surrounding students and teachers couldn't help but look on coldly, some even feeling a faint sense of satisfaction. Relying on their relationship with Takeshi, those 2 had previously gone to great lengths to block other girls from throwing themselves at the men, and during the escape, they had intentionally shoved others behind them. The rest had long since thoroughly hated Midori and Asami. Now seeing one dead and one abandoned, the satisfaction in their hearts practically soared to the heavens. Oh, what a pity only one person died. There's still one left here as an eyesore. They thought they sold themselves for a good price, but turned out to be the first to die outside. This is fate. Heaven punishes the wicked. If you ask me, this is karma. The girls and the female teacher even began to feel glad that they hadn't surrendered their bodies, otherwise wouldn't they have been used for free by those large brutes? How fortunate that they were still pure. Thinking of this, their gazes toward Asami became increasingly disdainful, giving them a sense of superiority. Asami hated these people to the core, but she didn't dare say it aloud. Glancing at the cold-faced Takeshi, she could only bite her lip and crawl back toward the students and teachers. She pleaded delicately, "Teacher, help me." But before she could finish her act, she was kicked down by someone. The girl who glared at her glanced at Takeshi and saw that he had no intention of defending Asami. Instantly becoming bolder, several girls rushed toward Asami, kicking and punching her, pulling her hair and slapping her. Bitch, what are you coming over here for? Weren't you on that side? Now that your backer doesn't want you, you want to return to our side? You're dreaming. Just now you and Midori almost got us killed, and you still have the nerve to come back? Beat this bitch to death. Leaving her alive is just a hazard. Asami curled into a ball on the cold restroom floor, her clothes nearly torn to shreds as she held her head and sobbed uncontrollably. Now that Takeshi could no longer be relied upon and she was ostracized by her classmates, she had completely lost all support. Suddenly, Asami spotted Kazuki leaning against the wall, and hope reignited in her eyes. Kazuki remained completely indifferent to everything before him. He took off his helmet and walked straight to a faucet, eating food to replenish his physical stamina. He needed to rest up. As soon as the zombies at the door dispersed, he would set off for the Mariana Hotel. At the thought of this, Kazuki wished he could chop this group of people to pieces. If they hadn't suddenly appeared, Kazuki could have easily bypassed the zombies on his own, taken the evolution serum, and left quietly instead of being trapped here wasting precious time. Kazuki's movement caused the people beating Asami to stop. Suddenly, a girl gasped in surprise. You're Kazuki! The surroundings instantly erupted into an uproar. His father, who owed gambling debts, was chased to the school by debt collectors who dragged Kazuki into a restroom and beat him until he wet his pants, leaving him too afraid to attend class. He was even tied behind a motorcycle by Ryota and dragged across the entire campus. One incident after another had long made Kazuki's reputation as a loser well known. Furthermore, the entire school knew that Kazuki was Yua's ultimate simp. Since he was a simp, he naturally posed zero threat to beautiful women. Their fear of him vanished, instantly replaced by burning rage. It was this person who caused them to blindly run out of the safe room, otherwise everyone wouldn't have fallen to this state. He was the root cause! At this moment, in their eyes, Kazuki was even more detestable than Asami and Takeshi. You still have the nerve to come back? Just now you deserted us, almost getting us killed, do you know that? A girl shouted with her hands on her hips. With her leading the charge, the other girls instantly found their momentum. I think he did it on purpose, leaving us here to block the door for him so he could find a window to escape. To think I saw you killing zombies so powerfully and thought you could protect us out of here. It's all your fault. Those people who just died were all killed because of you. You must take responsibility. Fear, coupled with intense resentment, caused the female students to pour all their grievances onto Kazuki, the resentful voices rising one after another. Everyone was full of complaints about Kazuki, getting more agitated the more they spoke. Kazuki originally couldn't be bothered to pay them any mind, but at this point, the female teacher spoke up. She coughed twice, put on a deep and solemn expression, and said, "Students, quiet down first. We haven't reached that point yet. Maybe there's still a turnaround." Having said that, she looked directly at Kazuki, bringing out her authority as a teacher. But what the student said is right. If we hadn't seen you killing zombies down there and giving us hope, we wouldn't have rushed out of the safe room to end up in this situation. For this matter, student, you indeed bear the primary responsibility. Let's do this. When dawn breaks tomorrow, you will be responsible for escorting us to a safe place. With your skills, we all have confidence in you. As a man, you must shoulder the responsibility of protecting women. Teacher believes you can do it. After speaking, she even patted Kazuki's shoulder to show encouragement. The female teacher's words instantly reignited hope in the other girls. They all strongly agreed with the female teacher's proposal, and their gazes toward Kazuki softened considerably. That's more like it. It was caused by you in the first place, so you should take up this responsibility. My poor best friend died. If you don't help me out of here, she won't rest in peace. Then let's discuss now who he should escort in the first batch. Is there even a need to discuss? My dad is a police officer. Send me out first and I'll have my dad come pick you guys up. Who are you fooling? Your dad is just a security guard at a gate. It's better to send me out first. Then it's better to send me. In their view, Kazuki's silence meant consent. Soon the conversation shifted, and they began to argue fiercely over who would be in the first batch to be escorted. All right, listen to me, I'll arrange who goes first. The female teacher chimed in, but when the others heard that she had included herself in the first batch, they immediately became unhappy and started bickering loudly again. Watching them, Kazuki was utterly speechless and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Are you guys insane? Why would I, perfectly fine on my own, take along a bunch of dead weights like you? Kazuki's words made the cheerful crowd instantly lose their voices, filled with confusion and disbelief, which then entirely transformed into rage that flooded their hearts. What kind of words are those? You caused my best friend's death and you don't feel a single shred of guilt? Do you think you can just walk away? Let me tell you, it's impossible. Numerous female students surrounded Kazuki, their saliva nearly spraying onto his face. The female teacher also said angrily, "So many people died because of you. If it weren't for you, we would still be upstairs sleeping soundly. You are the culprit. You." Before she could finish her sentence, Kazuki's right hand clamped onto her throat like lightning, lifting her entire body off the ground. His cold gaze was filled with pure disgust. People died because you were stupid. Being cornered here is because your own screams drew the zombies. What does that have to do with me? Did I drag you by your heads and force you down here to die? You're truly stupid and talkative. It's a miracle you've survived until now. The female teacher still wanted to argue, but Kazuki threw her heavily to the ground. "You, how can you be like this? Do you still consider me your teacher?" The female teacher instinctively wanted to scold Kazuki. But before she could utter a second sentence, she felt a cold blade press against her throat. It was the sharp kukri machete. Kazuki's lips curled up, displaying a harmless smile. "Hello, teacher. Are you going to shut up yourself? Or should I teach you how?" The smile before her eyes was so gentle, but every word spoken was bone-chillingly cold. Hearing this, the female teacher shuddered violently and slumped to the floor, while the other girls turned pale with fear. All of them huddled together like terrified little chicks. The Kazuki standing before them was completely different from the one they knew. They had always felt that killing zombies was one thing, but in a civilized society, surely few would dare to kill a human. Furthermore, Kazuki was a famous loser, so they felt they had nothing to fear. But only now did they realize how colossally wrong they were. Kazuki sheathed the kukri machete with satisfaction. "Remember this, we have never been on the same path. Don't provoke me, otherwise killing you guys is much easier than killing zombies." The crowd shuddered once more. The entire restroom fell deathly silent, leaving only the muffled snarling of the zombies outside. However, Takeshi's eyes nearby lit up because he had spotted the kukri machete on Kazuki's waist. He remembered clearly that Kazuki did not have this piece of equipment on his waist earlier. The previous announcement suddenly echoed in Takeshi's mind. Could it be the traitor is right here? He went to find the traitor just now. He must have known this, which is why he deliberately ran to the library. Chapter 15. Did you think I knew nothing? Takeshi clenched his fists in excitement. He also had several energy fragments in his possession. If he could buy something good from the traitor, he could fight his way out. "I'm going inside to relieve myself. You two keep an eye on them for me," he instructed his two construction workers. Takeshi pretended to hold up his pants as he walked toward the deeper part of the restroom. "Should have just shut up earlier. Talkative women are the most annoying." Kazuki put away his crowbar. He began to clean himself and his equipment, from the battle on the playground to slaying the stalker, and then the bitter fights at the library entrance and the 5th floor. Even with a reinforced body, Kazuki still felt quite fatigued. The cold running water made Kazuki feel alive again. Finding a toilet bowl to sit on, he pulled out biscuits, chocolate, and Red Bull to replenish his energy. The others hadn't eaten dinner and were already starving to the limit. Now seeing Kazuki eating and drinking heavily, they instinctively began to lick their lips, yet out of fear of Kazuki, they didn't dare to act out of line. However, Kazuki gradually began to frown, because after eating his fill, he discovered that the hunger level in his stats hadn't decreased at all. Instead, it had risen to 15%. Could this hunger level be something else? Kazuki fell into deep thought. "Kazuki? I didn't eat dinner? I'm starving to death." Suddenly, a soft, delicate scent drifted over. Asami crawled in front of Kazuki, her pitifully large eyes staring at him. "Could you share a little with me? I can give you something in exchange." But Kazuki didn't even look at her. "Get lost. Don't disgust me. But I'm sincere. Stay away from me." Asami turned her head, moved a step away, and sat down, a flash of despair crossing her eyes. It soon transformed into boundless malice. "Kazuki, you will definitely regret this." Just then, Takeshi ran out from inside, his eyes burning with envy the instant he saw Kazuki. He had seen the traitor and even spent an energy fragment just to open the merchandise list, which had pained him greatly. He originally thought he could buy something good. Who could have guessed that the items inside had been completely swept clean by Kazuki, leaving only a few ragged pieces of clothing? Especially when he saw the evolution serum that had turned gray. He was driven absolutely insane. He recalled the scene of Kazuki explosively slaughtering the zombies earlier. In his eyes, the reason Kazuki could solo a horde of zombies must be that he had already used an evolution serum to become an evolver before, and now he had bought another evolution serum, which was simply an absolute waste. If he had that evolution serum, he would definitely become just as powerful as Kazuki. When that time came, what wouldn't he have? He was now able to enjoy all the things he had never been able to enjoy before. But now the evolution potion had been bought by Kaede. His resentful eyes stared fixedly at Kaede, hating him so much that he gnashed his teeth. But suddenly, Takeshi thought of something, and his eyes lit up. Since Kaede was already a Tier 1 evolved, he shouldn't be able to use the evolution potion again. Most likely, that vial of evolution potion was still inside his survival space. As long as he could find a way to kill him, he should be able to make the evolution potion drop. It had to be like that. All games were like that. The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. A glint of ferocity appeared in Takeshi's eyes. It was just very well concealed. He wasn't stupid either. He knew that he absolutely couldn't take down Kaede by himself. Someone had to create an opportunity for a sneak attack. Takeshi quietly found two of his fellow workers and told them about the traitor. "Boss, what do we do now? Tell us what to do. We will fully cooperate with you," Takeshi said gloomily. "First, we need to get the crowd into a frenzy, and then we will launch a sneak attack together to take him down. All four of us have combat talents. A head-on clash won't work, but a sneak attack should be a sure bet." Having arranged the plan, the three of them quietly dispersed. Takeshi suddenly shouted with feigned pleasant surprise, "I just saw the traitor inside!" The originally dejected crowd heard the word traitor, and everyone's eyes burst with a light of excitement. Every player had already received the previous system announcement. In their eyes, getting the items in the traitor's hands was the key to staying alive. People scrambled to rush into the restroom, but it required one energy fragment just to open the shop. This blocked them all outside. Disappointment turned into despair, spreading through the crowd. At this moment, Takeshi spoke up again. "Everyone, don't be disappointed. I already started a trade, but I only found out after going in that everything inside has been completely bought out by someone." Bought out? The crowd's eyes immediately turned burning hot as they looked toward Kaede. Who else could this person be but Kaede? The things he was eating right now definitely came from the traitor as well. Moreover, there must be a lot left in his backpack. Most importantly, there were weapons. As long as the weapons were distributed to everyone, then they could all charge out of here alive. No one considered exactly how many weapons Kaede had. They simply stubbornly believed there must be enough for everyone to use. Naked greed surfaced in everyone's eyes as they looked at Kaede. It was a matter of survival, leaving them no room for hesitation. Between Kaede and the zombies, they decisively felt that Kaede was an easier target. Yuka suddenly spoke up first. "Kaede, since you have so many weapons, take them out and share them with everyone. That way we can fight our way out together with you." Others immediately chimed in. "That's right, you can keep one for yourself and distribute the rest to us. You can't be so selfish. If you share them, everyone can survive. At worst, we'll return them to you once we get out." Kaede didn't even bother to pay attention to them, continuing to eat and drink heavily. At this time, the female teacher gathered her courage again. "Kaede, since you have the ability, it's only right that we help each other. How about this? Hand the things over to me and I will distribute them fairly. Everything will be returned to you in full afterward. When we meet the school or outside rescue teams, we will also report your heroic deeds to give you an award. What do you think?" "This is a good proposal." Many students were eager to try. The look in Keide's eyes as he watched them was already like staring at a group of idiots. This female teacher had already stood on the moral high ground earlier, rattling on, and he had been too lazy to acknowledge her. Now she was doubling down, truly treating his silence as being easy to bully. Amidst everyone's envy, Kaede stuffed the whole piece of chocolate into his mouth. "You're ugly, but you certainly dream beautiful dreams. I bought these things with my own energy fragments. Why on earth should I share them with you?" The female teacher's face stiffened. "I said I would return them to you when we meet the rescue team. Then shut up and wait properly for your rescue team. Why waste your breath on me?" Hiding behind the crowd, Takeshi suddenly pinched his nose and roared loudly, "What are you still wasting your breath for at a time like this?" Even if he doesn't want to give them, he has to. Without weapons, none of us can expect to survive. As long as we snatch the weapons from his hands, we can live. From hope to despair, and then seeing hope again, the crowd's inner state had nearly collapsed. Incited by Takeshi, they instantly began to act on instinct. Brooms and mops in the restroom were snatched up by them, and there were even foul-smelling toilet plungers. Armed with weapons, many people grew bolder. Kaede was only one person. He certainly couldn't withstand so many of them. They weren't like the zombies who could only bite mindlessly. If they snatched the weapons, they could survive. They could definitely do it. Just as the crowd was drawing Kaede's attention, Takeshi had already taken the opportunity to secretly hold a wrench and slip behind Kaede. At this moment, Kaede's attention was drawn by the crowd, seemingly completely unaware. The wrench was raised high and smashed fiercely toward the back of Kaede's head. Under strength enhancement, he could easily crack open a zombie's skull. With just one hit, even a head could be shattered. This guy in front of him was dead meat. Hey, the evolution potion is mine. But before the sinister smile could bloom on Takeshi's face, he suddenly saw Kaede raise his right hand. Effortlessly, he caught the wrench that was smashing down. Impossible! Takeshi was struck with panic and wanted to pull the wrench back, but he found that the wrench seemed to be welded into Kaede's hand, remaining completely motionless. Kaede calmly turned his head, a genial smile hanging on his face. Did you guys think I didn't know anything? Chapter 16. The doors breached. Takeshi looked down and saw the sneering profile of Kaede's face as he turned around. The next second, he felt a sharp pain in his wrist, followed by a cracking sound in his ear. Kaede directly snapped Takeshi's wrist and skillfully put the wrench into his survival space. Then, a kick crashed into Takeshi's abdomen. Thud! Takeshi flew backwards, smashing through the moisture-proof partition door of the restroom, landing flat on his backside on a toilet, tears streaming down his face. The originally eager crowd was suddenly doused with a bucket of ice water, all standing frozen in place. Kaede slowly stood up and sneered, deliberately revealing information about the traitor, inciting others to draw my attention, and then waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Good idea. Do you think an evolved's perception is just for show? Perception was the most mysterious attribute among the 4 major attributes. Strength could increase explosive power, agility could increase speed, and constitution could increase a player's maximum stamina. Yet perception offered absolutely no bonus to combat, because perception had a special purpose, which was being able to sense surrounding danger. For a regular person wanting to sneak attack an evolved, it was nothing short of an idiot's daydream. At this moment, Kaede stared at Takeshi, finally remembering who this guy was. In his past life, it seemed to be Takeshi who obtained the evolution potion here, occupied the neighboring supermarket, and established the first safe zone on campus, hoarding a large group of students and teachers for his own pleasure. Kaede had taken temporary shelter in the cafeteria, but because his hand had been broken by Scarface, he was kicked out of the safe zone that very night, by Takeshi commanding these few fellow workers. He was chased by zombies all the way, only managing to climb up a tree with great difficulty to escape with his life. You misunderstand. I didn't mean that. Only now did Takeshi realize how massive the gap was between himself and an evolved. He still wanted to argue, but Kaede had already reached for the kukri knife at his waist. The kukri knife flashed like cold lightning. Whatever you want to say, go down to hell and tell it to King Yama. I have no interest in listening. The blade swept across Takeshi's neck, and blood erupted from the wound, shooting straight up to the ceiling before deflecting back down, creating a storm of gore. Everyone was drenched from head to toe. Some screamed and hid, some retreated in panic, and some stood frozen like wooden chickens, the weapons in their hands dropping from fear. The other 2 workers were so terrified they collapsed flat onto their backsides on the ground, because the 2 found that after killing, Kaede turned toward them, approaching step by step. The 2 of us didn't provoke you. It was Takeshi's own scheme and has nothing to do with us. Don't think we won't fight back. We have weapons too. The 2 held the shovel and sledgehammer in their hands to bolster their courage, but the sun-like smile on Katie's face was expanding. Did I see it wrong? Weren't the 3 of you planning to act together just now? The Kaede in front of their eyes suddenly blurred, and then a sharp pain struck their necks. Kaede leaped forward with a swift stride, the kukri knife instantly tearing through the throats of the 2 men. Fast as lightning, swift as a thunderbolt, Kaede's physical fitness, which far exceeded theirs, left them completely unable to react. An instant kill. Blood splattered, thoroughly dyeing the entire restroom red, and Kaede stood in the rain of blood, looking like a god of slaughter. He looked at the kukri knife in his hand, the corners of his mouth turning slightly upward. As expected, the traitor's equipment is just easier to use than equipment converted from reality. The female teacher sat paralyzed on the ground in terror, before her eyes only columns of blood gushing like fountains. You killed them! You committed murder! Yeah, they wanted to kill me. Of course I have to nip the danger in the bud. Is there a problem? Kagad's calm voice echoed in the room, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Any person or thing that could potentially threaten him, Kaede would directly obliterate. This was the code of conduct he had set for himself. Thinking about how she had actually wanted to stand on the moral high ground and emotionally hijack Kaede just now, the female teacher broke out into a cold sweat all over. But Kaede acted as if he had only done a trivial little thing, turning on the faucet to rewash his hands, face, and hair. Then he pulled out a new bag of biscuits, tore it open, and continued to swallow them as if no one else were around, even offering a slight smile. Why didn't I think this stuff tasted so good before? Perhaps I'm truly hungry. If not for the floor full of fresh blood and the blood dripping from the ceiling, it would almost make one feel that everything just now was an illusion. The crowd rushed in terror into the far corners of the restroom, shivering all over like frightened little chicks. Kaede's gone mad! He's insane! He's a monster! But just at this moment, the angry roars of zombies suddenly came from outside the door. The intense scent of blood here had drifted out, instantly drawing the attention of the zombies. Bang, bang, bang. Violent pounding sounds echoed out, making the door, which was already nearing collapse, even more precarious. After 2 strikes, one of the screws at the top popped off. The deformed door was smashed open, leaving a gap that revealed the greedy and bloodthirsty deathly gray pupils outside. Kaide's expression tightened, and he immediately put away his food. This door was so flimsy. "No, hurry, block the door!" The female teacher shrieked in a frenzy. Everyone instinctively leaned against the restroom door to brace it, but Kaid turned around without the slightest hesitation and rushed toward the innermost section. Because the gap had been smashed open, the scent of blood had already drifted out. The zombie horde that smelled blood would absolutely not give up because of this. Relying on female students and a female teacher to block the door was nothing short of an idiot's daydream. Sure enough, even though they blocked the door with all their might, the door was still visibly deforming, bit by bit. Suddenly, with a loud crash, the main door was burst open, and the zombie horde swarmed inside. "Save me! I don't want to die! Don't come over here!" Several female students behind the door were instantly tackled to the ground. The zombies pounced on them like hyenas, tearing at every piece of flesh. Their meticulously maintained skin was, in the eyes of the zombies, already a smooth and tender ribeye steak, tearing and biting with immense vigor. Meanwhile, the female teacher directly behind the restroom door was pinned straight underneath it. Continuous waves of zombies trampled over the door. The violent impacts and relentless squeezing crushed her body, and she could clearly hear her own bones wailing and snapping continuously. Sharp pain flooded her entire body. She agonizingly tried to push the door off herself, but a zombie bit down on her thumb. With a tearing sound, her thumb was instantly ripped off, and a piece of pale white bone protruded from the mangled flesh amid the splattering blood. The female teacher was dragged out from under the door by the biting zombies. With her bones completely shattered, even running away was a luxury, and she reduced to zombie fodder. The female students in the rear immediately scattered like birds and beasts, rushing into individual restroom stalls and locking the doors tight. Outside, miserable shrieks were everywhere, and chaotic zombie shadows constantly flashed outside the gaps beneath the stall doors. The people inside all covered their mouths, shivering violently, but more and more zombies rushed in. Around the people who had been tackled, there was simply no more space for others to bite, and the scent of blood on each student now became a fatal attraction. They began to bash against the stall doors, smashing open the fragile, moisture-proof panels like opening tin cans. The entire restroom degenerated into a dining hall of hell, with miserable shrieks filling the air. Yet Kaede was not flustered in the slightest, instead sprinting toward the depths of the restroom at the very first moment. Having these pieces of human meat as a distraction conversely gave Kaede time to pull away and leave. But just then, he suddenly felt himself grabbed from behind. "We're going to die, so don't even think about living either." Chapter 17, Ryu's Obsession. Kaede turned his head and found that the person holding on to him with a death grip was actually Yuka. But at this moment, she looked completely crazed, with a fresh bite mark on her waist that was constantly bleeding. And in just that brief moment, another zombie pounced from behind, biting down on her calf. Yuka roared in agony, but her bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at Kaede, using all her strength to grip Kaede's arm tightly, her fingernails nearly digging through his clothes into his flesh. She was going to die, but even in death, she wanted to drag Kaede down as a cushion. "It was you who got us killed. We can't live, so don't you think about living either." Yuka roared in agony, her eyes entirely filled with a vengeful malice. But before she could finish speaking, she saw a flash of a blade across her hands, followed by an agonizing pain from her wrists. The moment he was grabbed, Kaede had already drawn his kukri knife. With a sharp, severing sound, he chopped off both of Yuka's hands without any hesitation, cold-blooded like a machine. Yuka let out a miserable shriek of agony, but the next second, the shriek stopped abruptly as 7 or 8 zombies tackled her from behind, followed by a gory feast. Kaede shook off everyone and bolted inward. No matter what place you stay in, you must always think of more than one retreat route in advance. This was, after all, the golden rule of surviving the apocalypse. Kaede had long seen that above the ceiling of this stall, a ventilation duct was hidden. Rushing into the stall, Kaede stepped onto the toilet, lifted the ceiling panel, braced himself with both hands, and climbed into the ventilation duct. The series of maneuvers was smooth and seamless. The trailing zombies rushed beneath the ventilation duct, their dull white pupils staring fixedly at Kaede inside, stretching out their arms like vicious ghosts wanting to drag Kaede into hell. But right now, their athletic abilities made it completely impossible to climb up. Yet this group of creatures just stared crazily at the ventilation duct entrance. Kaede glanced at his arm, only to see Yuka's severed hands still gripping his arm tightly, fresh blood constantly dripping from the severed wrists. Still so persistent, even in death. Kaede pried open the two severed hands and threw them out of the ventilation duct. Afterward, he took off his blood-stained clothes, pants, and shoes, using them to wipe dry the blood traces inside the ventilation duct before dropping them down from the vent as well. The zombies below finally stopped staring at the vent with their longing eyes. Changing into the leather jacket and sweatpants bought from the trader. Listening to the sound of chewing from the zombies beneath his feet, Kaede lay down peacefully. The zombies below wouldn't disperse anytime soon, making it the perfect opportunity to take a beautiful little nap for a few hours. Kaede pulled out his phone to check the time, only to find that the phone actually had several missed calls, as well as unread messages. They were all from Ryu. He had long set his phone entirely to silent, so he hadn't heard a thing. She really hasn't died yet. I truly want to know how she survived. The Mariana Grand Hotel was one of the top luxury hotels in Sea City, located in a commercial district on the west side of the city. After the apocalypse descended, there were at least tens of thousands of zombies there. Even Kaede couldn't confidently say he would survive, so he had no idea what Ryu was relying on. Perhaps relying on the men she's attached to. Kaede thought of something unknown, and the sun-like smile turned up on the corners of his mouth again. He sent a message to Ryu. My dear, you must absolutely not be afraid. No matter what happens, do not give up. I am already on my way rushing to the hotel. I swear I will definitely rescue you. Every single word was deeply affectionate. For this, Kaede had deliberately recalled his past self, immersing himself in the feeling for a few seconds. It was so disgusting that he felt like vomiting after sending it. But he was very satisfied. With words like this, Ryu, you should have even more motivation to stay alive, right? Absolutely do not die, I will definitely go find you. Meanwhile, inside a certain suite of the Mariana Grand Hotel, a naked zombie lay face up on the bed, its entire face already smashed to a pulp. Beside it was a blood-stained ashtray. Ryu's eyes were filled with terror as she frantically washed her body with water inside the bathroom, applying body wash over and over again, as if wanting to cleanse every single pore. As she washed, she suddenly knelt in the bathroom, weeping and vomiting. Originally, today was the audition site for the female lead of a certain web drama. The teacher from the Academy of Fine Arts had brought dozens of young starlets from the Academy, including Ryu, for the director to interview. Relying on her superior physical assets, Ryu stood out from the crowd and had already been pulled into the room privately by the director to discuss the plot alone. As a result, just as the plot discussion reached a climax, the director beneath her suddenly turned into a zombie. She instinctively grabbed the glass ashtray by the bed and brutally bludgeoned the director to death. Thinking of the terrifying, snarling appearance of the director after turning into a zombie, and recalling the intimate contact with him right when the director was transforming, Ryu felt like vomiting all over again. But she had nothing left to throw up. Her trembling hands dialed external numbers over and over, yet not a single one could connect. Checking her profile, name, Ryu status, Doomsday Player, gender, female, agility, 5, constitution, 8, perception, 6, evolution level, LV0, status, infected. Seeing this, despair instantly flooded Ryu's eyes. Infected! She was infected! She was going to turn into a zombie. Despair blanketing her, Ryu pushed open the window and leaned her body out. The roars of zombies and shrieks of humans constantly assaulted her eardrums. She didn't want to turn into a zombie. Jumping from here was enough to smash her to pieces. Just as she was about to jump down, the phone suddenly made a sound indicating a received text message. Ryu indifferently picked up the phone. It was precisely Kaede, deeply affectionate. Seeing these words, Ryu instantly moved to tears, finding it incredible that she could have such a good boyfriend as Kaede. She even recalled the infidelity she had committed against Kaede in the past, and couldn't help but silently begin to feel guilty. She excitedly tried to call Kaede back, but found it had become impossible to connect, leaving her to send messages over and over again in the hope that they would go through. But even so, it allowed Ryu to see a glimmer of dawn in the despairing darkness. Katie's words reignited her hope to live. The game instructions had also said before that not everyone who gets infected will 100% turn into a zombie. Maybe I'm that lucky one. Ryu kept encouraging herself and began to look for items in the room that she could use to deal with the zombies. Having killed one zombie, although forced to do so, it also made her understand that zombies were not very difficult to handle. Just at this moment, a commotion came from outside the door. It seemed like someone was excitedly shouting something. Ryu listened carefully, and suddenly her eyes lit up. What they were saying was, "Traitor." That's right. Being able to find such a good boyfriend as Kaede proves that heaven is not treating me poorly. I will definitely be able to survive until Kaede comes to rescue me. Moreover, if I can find the traitor, they might have something on them that can make players immune to infection. Ryu hadn't played games much, but she also understood a principle. No matter how brutal a game was, it was impossible to completely block all paths to survival. It would definitely leave a lifeline. Perhaps the traitor had an antidote, but the fatal part was that the traitor only recognized energy fragments, and she only had the single one she had just harvested from the zombie director. An antidote was such a precious thing, one was definitely not enough. I need more energy fragments, and someone will definitely compete with me. But if these people all die, a cold gleam flashed in Ryu's eyes as she looked at her own data. Innately seductive. Ryu, you can do it. Just use the method you are best at. You will definitely survive. Chapter 18, New Feature Unlocked. At this moment, Kaede had absolutely no idea what Ryu was thinking. As for the message he sent, he couldn't even be sure whether Ryu could receive it. And of course, he didn't care either. Lying in the ventilation duct, looking at the time on his phone, the corners of Kaede's mouth suddenly turned up. Just as he finished speaking, the system's notification sound appeared in his mind. The Doomsday Death Crucible has been open for 1 hour. The chat channel is now unlocked. Use the command open/close chat channel to control. Relevant functions are updating subsequent systems. Please wait. A cold system notification suddenly appeared in his ear, while a translucent data bar that was loading appeared above his head, the percentage growing bit by bit. 1%, 2%, 3%. Looking at the blue, transparent dialog box that suddenly appeared in the lower left corner, Kaede felt as if a lifetime had passed. In his past life, he was as lowly as an ant. The reason he was able to survive time and again was because a group of kind-hearted people constantly shared combat experience with others through the chat, including handling methods for various special monsters. It was precisely the selfless contribution of this group of people that saved many, including Kaede. Unfortunately, this group of people gradually disappeared later on, likely perishing one after another in the Death Crucible, or perhaps being killed by others who took advantage of their kindness. In the apocalypse, good people almost never lived long. Kaede stopped dwelling on these thoughts and focused his consciousness on the chat channel. Just by using the command to open the channel, he could use his mind to rapidly input the text he wanted to chat with. People were speaking one after another on the regional chat channel. Are there still living people in the school? Everyone who is alive, come out and say something. I'm scared to death. Thanks to running fast, the people behind me are all dead. Friendly tip, the current zombies aren't considered strong. People with combat enhancement talents can easily take them down. I even got a level 0 machete to drop. Brother, yours is a combat talent, my talent is infection resistance. How about the two of us team up? Are all your talents that good? My talent is timid as a mouse, making it harder for zombies to discover me when I hide. Can someone come to dormitory building number 7 to save me? The range of the regional channel was a 1-kilometer radius centered on the player, which basically still fell within the scope of Sea-City University. Focusing his consciousness on a person's name allowed him to see the person's name and age, but appearance, quest attributes, evolution level, and talent data were all hidden. This was a protection for players. People on the chat channel engaged in exchanges, and some even selflessly shared combat insights, making others eager to try. Let's go give it a try. Sitting withered is just waiting for death anyway. Everyone, wait for my good news. Once I kill the zombies, I'll go save you. Incited by the players in the chat channel, many people also turned their excitement into action. Several boys grabbed stools or even water kettles from the dormitory, preparing to open the door and take down all the zombies at the entrance. Although there were quite a few zombies in the corridor, if they braced the door and only left a gap wide enough for one person to pass, they should be able to break through them one by one. This was the difference between human players and zombies. Humans would use their brains, and if there were no conditions, they could create conditions to move forward. But they obviously underestimated the strength of the zombies and miscalculated their own abilities. There were only 3 of them, while there were a full 30 to 40 zombies outside. Hearing the commotion of the door opening, the zombies instantly swarmed over toward them. Originally, the boy only wanted to open a small crack, but the immense force of the zombies rushing from outside instantly smashed the dormitory door open, and what followed was a horrific feeding frenzy. No matter what kind of talent you have, it is completely useless in front of a horde of zombies. The same tragedy was happening in every corner of the campus. Those guys who had previously boasted about rushing out to harvest zombies had vanished one by one. The fellow who had just gotten a machete dropped from a chest had similarly evaporated from the face of the earth. This instantly threw a bucket of cold water on everyone, and those who were originally tempted all shrank back. Since the apocalypse arrived, there had been non-stop fighting, and it was rare to have a moment of rest. Kazuki took his time, leisurely watching everyone chat. Zombies were not that easy to kill. Although their current stats were quite garbage, the most lethal thing was not the zombies' stats. It was the absolute terror generated when facing them head-on. It would make people tremble all over with fear, even paralyzing them on the spot, too terrified to move. No matter how good your talent was, if you were scared witless, it was still a dead end. This was also why Kazuki admired that young lady so much. She actually grabbed a steel pipe and started fighting directly. It was truly stunning. Suddenly, a series of spamming messages caught Kazuki's attention. "I am Li Cheng, a Taekwondo instructor from the School of Physical Education. Everyone, do not be afraid. Gather all the food and water around you and find something hard to use as a weapon for self-defense. These zombies aren't that scary. They will die if you smash their heads a few times. Students without weapons should try not to move, do not turn on the lights, and especially do not make any noise. The zombies' vision is very poor at night, but their hearing and sense of smell are highly acute. Everyone stay put as much as possible." This guy named Li Cheng sent several messages in a row, listing a long string of precautions. Finally, he added another sentence. "The school is currently organizing a self-rescue team and establishing an on-campus safe zone. Those who need rescue, blast out your specific addresses, and the rescue team will come to save you once the route is planned." With Li Cheng's tips, coupled with hearing that the school was about to send a rescue team, many students were on the verge of crying from gratitude. "Thank you, teacher! I'm in room 702 of the number 7 girls' dormitory building. Thank you, teacher! I'm in the pharmacy on the 3rd floor of the school hospital. Thank you, teacher! I am at..." Li Cheng's actions immediately won the goodwill of many people, and many girls posted their locations one after another, begging for assistance. But a person named Ryota suddenly spoke up. "Everyone, do not believe him. I am a student from the basketball department of the School of Physical Education. Our school has no instructor named Li Cheng at all. He just wants to trick you into revealing your exact locations. He definitely has malicious intentions." As soon as these words came out, the regional chat channel went into an uproar. Li Cheng spoke up again. "I really am a teacher from the School of Physical Education. Everyone, do not believe him. Recently, a group of social thugs sneaked into our school, and this Ryota must be one of them, purposely trying to disrupt our rescue progress. I am also a student of the School of Physical Education, and I can verify Instructor Li Cheng's identity. Furthermore, I have officially joined the rescue team. On the other hand, I have never even heard of this Ryota. I am a student of the School of Physical Education too, and I can also verify Instructor Li Cheng's identity. This Ryota must be a punk who snuck into the school." Several voices appeared in succession, all verifying Li Cheng's identity. Everyone's hearts settled down once again. "The teacher is right! Everyone, do not believe him! Last time my best friend came back from late self-study, she was stalked by a few thugs and was scared to death. Scum, get out of the chat channel! You are not welcome here. I think the one with malicious intentions is you. Everyone remember the name Ryota and never believe a single word he says in the future. He is just a piece of scum. After all, it was a rescue team and a school rescue team at that. To many people, especially female students, this was their hope of survival. Ryota tried to warn everyone several times not to disclose information. But not only were his messages quickly buried by other voices, but he also drew vicious insults from countless people. The fierce words made it sound as if they wanted to curse out Ryota's ancestors for 18 generations. In the end, Ryota left a parting line, "Biting the hand that feeds you, you don't know a good heart when you see one," and directly vanished. To this, Kazuki merely curled his lips. These people acted like they had been pumped with adrenaline the moment they heard about a rescue team. unable to distinguish good people from bad. After all, every survivor within 1 kilometer could see the messages left behind. In the apocalypse, the dark side of human nature was infinitely magnified. Who knew whether what awaited them would be a human or a demon? In the apocalypse, revealing your own home address was no different from seeking your own destruction. Moreover, Kazuki did not remember the school's sports department having an instructor named Lee Chung. Instead, he remembered that in his past life, a thug named Lee Chung, along with a dozen of his scoundrel friends, used the exact same method to trick dozens of girls into revealing their locations. When they found one of the girls, Kazuki happened to be hiding secretly right next door to her. The girl's shrill, agonizing screams were still deeply etched in Kazuki's memory to this day. Finally, early the next morning, Kazuki saw with his own eyes that the girl, completely naked, jumped down from the 6th floor. However, Kazuki had no obligation to warn these people. In the apocalypse, without sharp self-judgment, even if they were saved once, they would soon court death again due to their own stupidity. At this moment, the data bar above Kazuki's head finally reached 100%. Data update complete. Remote trading system activated. It can be controlled via the command open/close remote trading system. Description: use this feature wisely. It can definitely allow you to survive longer in the apocalyptic melting pot of death. Chapter 19. An old acquaintance after all. It's finally online. You're exactly what I've been waiting for. The corners of Kazuki's mouth curled upward. The remote trading system operated in 2 ways. The first provided players with a free trading platform where anyone could list their items with a price for others to purchase. This kind of trade could only use energy fragments and had no transaction fees. The second was a one-on-one private trade between players, which could use energy fragments or be negotiated privately to swap items. However, the trading range was the same as the regional chat channel. Only players within a 1-kilometer radius could see the trade information. Kazuki opened the remote trading platform, and some people had already listed items around them for others to choose from. Mineral water, food, medicine, high-end cigarettes, these were considered normal. Some people even listed chairs, scissors, and other items. By focusing one's consciousness on the corresponding name, one could see the item's respective attributes. People in the chat channel also began to shout and advertise. A metal food tray swiped from the number 3 cafeteria. It can at least be used temporarily to block zombies. Want to swap for some food? A brick I got from the construction site. It has great defensive power. You can have it for 15 energy fragments. I have a few bottles of mineral water and compressed biscuits here. Whoever can come save me, I'll give them to you. The railing disassembled from a dormitory bed. Selling cheap? How can you have the face to sell that? The bed railings in our school dorms are so brittle. Are you sure that can kill zombies? All kinds of trades were popping up, and some matching parties quickly completed their transactions. The items on the trading platform were constantly cycling, but the only constant was the pursuit of weapons. There were many items that could block zombies, but not many weapons could actually smash a head to kill a zombie, causing the prices of good weapons to skyrocket. Kazuki had already anticipated this outcome. He had swept clean all the weapon-type goods from the traders just for this exact moment, leaving only a crowbar and a Nepalese kukri machete on his person. Kazuki took the simple knife, level 0 card, sharp rebar, level 0 card, and anti-slip gloves, level 0 card, that he had bought from the trader, and threw them all onto the trading platform. He also listed the steel pipe salvaged from Kaido and the wrench snatched from Daiki. All weapons were priced at 30 energy fragments. These were practically the only practical weapons on the trading platform at the moment, instantly sparking a heated discussion among the crowd. Damn, someone listed weapons, but they want 30 energy fragments. Straight up can't afford it. I really don't have energy fragments. Can I swap with food and water? I'm in the school supermarket. Tell me what you want. Why are there cards? Would some kind soul tell me what the cards are? Do you guys think this guy bought them from the trader and is now turning around to resell them to us? Absolutely! This guy named Kazuki is just a profiteer. Everyone envied Kazuki to death. While they were still running for their lives and forced to break zombie heads with bricks, this guy named Kazuki had already met a trader. Looking at this display, everyone suspected he had already cleaned out the trader. To be able to throw these pieces of equipment out for sale showed just how good Kazuki's own equipment must be. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. In an instant, the name Kazuki drew maximum animosity. However, someone also immediately sent a private message to Kazuki. "Handsome, I want that steel pipe. How much is it?" A sweet-voiced girl sent a private message to Kazuki, and it was a voice note. The voice was a cute lolly voice, full of artificial sweetness, sounding just like a soft, cute girl from the broadcasting department. Kazuki opened her profile and found that her name was Hina. Kazuki replied, 30 energy fragments, or 5 types of level 0 mutated materials. Otherwise, no deal. Boo-hoo, but I don't have energy fragments. For the sake of me being a girl, can I buy it on credit first? I will definitely find a way to pay you back in the future. Another creature trying to get something for nothing? Kazuki loathed this kind of person the most. He replied directly, men and women are equal here, everyone is treated the same. Finally, he added a sarcastic line. May this prosperous world be as you wish. On the other side, Hina was clearly choked up by the reply, and it took a long time before she started to act coquettishly again. But I really want it, handsome. How about I tell you my address? You come over and I'll be your girlfriend to pay off the debt. Haha, you sell yourself quite expensively. Can't afford it. Damn it, Kazuki. Are you looking for a fight? Before she could finish, the chat box vanished directly because Kazuki had blacklisted Hina. Afterward, several guys messaged him with similar intentions, and all of them were cleanly rejected by Kazuki. What a joke. Promises were the cheapest things in the apocalypse. Kazuki had stopped buying into that crap 3 years ago. Filled with resentment, Hina began to clamor in the chat channel. What a joke. Are you crazy for energy fragments? With an attitude like that, do you think you can sell anything? Whoever buys your things must have water in their brain. Those few guys who were also rejected immediately followed suit. I think this guy is an idiot. People who can kill zombies don't lack weapons. And those who lack weapons can't kill zombies. He doesn't even understand such a simple truth yet wants to scam people. Screw you. As long as everyone agrees not to buy, he will definitely lower the price in a few hours. Maybe someone else will list new weapons too. We don't need to get scammed by him. Exactly. Let him play with himself, stupid idiot, hoarder, miserly ghost. Better to get bitten to death by zombies the moment he steps out. Out of jealousy toward Kazuki and because they lacked the resources to exchange for Kazuki's weapons, the group led by Hina hurled vicious insults at Kazuki in the regional channel. Since they couldn't get the weapons anyway, they might as well get some verbal satisfaction, even smugly thinking they had ruined Kazuki's trade. But Kazuki couldn't care less about such people. Weapons obtained in reality were mostly classified as level 0 after digitalization, and weapons would only be this valuable during these few hours. The subsequent prices were bound to be driven down, but that required time. In this race against the clock to gather resources, time itself was the greatest cost. These fools thought they were going to get a bargain, completely unaware that this mindset had already destined them to be eliminated by the apocalypse. There were also sensible people on campus. Several people privately messaged Kazuki to seek a trade, among whom was Ryota, who had previously warned everyone to be careful. Kazuki had a good impression of him. Ryota straightforwardly used 5 level 0 mutated materials to take the steel pipe. The other few items were also sold quickly. Back then, the most expensive item from the trader had only cost Kazuki 12 energy fragments. Now he had already earned it all back and even stockpiled a wave of mutated materials. These things seemed useless now, but they would be excellent items in the future. Kazuki was in a great mood and continued to advertise in the chat channel. Only the simple knife, level 0 card, and anti-slip gloves, level 0 card left. If you want them, be fast. Once the time passes, they won't be available. No way! There are actually suckers buying them? Save it for me. I'm gonna look for items for you right now. The people who had just spoken offensively were completely stunned. One by one, they hurriedly tried to privately message Kazuki, only to find that they had already entered Kazuki's blacklist. Suddenly, a private chat window popped up in front of Kazuki. I want those gloves, but I don't have that many resources right now. 15 energy fragments, plus 2 level 0 mutated materials. This is already the highest price I can offer. Kazuki froze slightly, because the speaker was actually a girl named May. A girl. To have gathered so many items in less than an hour was something many guys couldn't even manage. A girl's figure suddenly flashed across Kazuki's mind. Could this actually be an old acquaintance? Chapter 20, Trading Phones for Gear. Inside a certain girl's dormitory, May was sitting on a bed, chewing on bread. She knew she couldn't face hordes of zombies head-on. After leaving the playground, she rode her motorcycle straight to her dormitory building. The zombies here were all mutated female students, so their strength was relatively weak. meaning she didn't face too much pressure handling them as a girl. Moreover, many were locked inside their dormitories, which prevented Mei from having to face too many zombies at once. Clearing through the dormitories one by one, she had accumulated quite a few materials and energy fragments. Resting just now, her mind was suddenly completely filled with the image of that bright, athletic guy from the playground. This had absolutely nothing to do with romance. It was just that the visual shock brought by Kazuki's combat style kept Mei from calming down for a long time. For certain reasons, Mei had secretly practiced free combat and kickboxing, so her physical strength was much higher than that of ordinary girls. She had deliberately tried to learn Kazuki's combat techniques just now, but quickly realized that she simply couldn't handle such high-intensity physical confrontation. That style of hunting was fundamentally impossible for an ordinary person to pull off. This made Mei increasingly curious about Kazuki. A wave of soreness hit her, pulling Mei back from her thoughts. Having hunted too many zombies, her wrists were numb from the vibrations of the steel pipe, and the blood had also made the steel pipe slick and difficult to grip. She needed the anti-slip gloves in Kazuki's hands. Beside Mei were 3 girls. Terrified of being scratched by zombies, they had wrapped themselves tightly in down jackets, and they were already drenched in sweat on this hot day. They were all senior schoolmates who had escaped by following Mei when she cleared the dormitories, and they couldn't be driven away. That Hina actually noticed Mei eating bread and drinking water in large gulps at this moment, and all 3 swallowed their saliva. Hina approached Mei, her face full of resentment. That dead man is a total cheapskate. If you trade with him, you'll lose big time. It would be better if the few of us kept these things to eat together. Exactly! The few of us went through so much trouble to gather these many energy fragments, biscuits, and mineral water. To give them all to him just for a few pieces of equipment is a loss, no matter how you think about it. I also think we shouldn't trade. Who knows, maybe we'll find a trader ourselves in a bit? The nearby Yui also nodded repeatedly. Only the 3rd girl, Rin, didn't say anything. But Mei gave them a cold glance. What do you mean by the few of us? These are all mine. Don't forget, it was because you brought out food as payment that I agreed to come over and help you finish off the zombies at your door. After I saved you, this food and water had nothing to do with you anymore. Yes, it's all yours. Hina and Yui lowered their heads, a flash of malice crossing their eyes. But seeing the blood-stained steel pipe in Mei's hand, they were somewhat intimidated. So they pulled Rin along and shrank to the other side of the dormitory. At this moment, Kazuki's reply came via a voice note. You must be that little beauty who snatched my business, right? Are days without me treating you badly? Mei froze in the middle of biting her bread. Are you that perverted arm-ripping guy? Don't give me such an ugly nickname. Your name is Mei, right? Compared to how you kill zombies, your name actually has a bit of a contrasting cuteness to it. Mei pouted and didn't argue, taking another bite of bread. Then, for the sake of our past cooperation, sell the item to me. Kazuki refused without the slightest hesitation. No way, I only want energy fragments and mutated materials. Besides, you should understand the value of a pair of gloves better than they do. To be honest, it's a surprise these gloves even lasted until now. Can't you make it a bit cheaper? I can add some food and water as compensation. Take it or leave it. The 2 began to haggle. In the corner, Hina and the other 2 looked sullen, their stomachs growling. Although they didn't know what Mei was doing, she was clearly privately chatting to buy equipment. Hina whispered with a cold snort. This bitch. She took our food and went to flirt with that scumbag named Kazuki, yet she didn't leave a single bit for us. Yui's eyes were filled with malice. Exactly. She only cares about eating herself and doesn't think to share any with us. Even if we agreed at the beginning that we were begging for her help, she can't really just snatch all the food away, can she? Does she even know basic human decency? We are her seniors. Rin hurriedly tried to smooth things over. All right. Who told her she dares to kill zombies while we don't? Besides, if she trades for a weapon, maybe she'll distribute it to us. Sharing a piece of bread is beneath her, and you think she'll share weapons? You're dreaming! Yui glared furiously at Rin, scaring Rin into shrinking back. Give it here! Yui snatched the last half bottle of water from Rin's hand and drank it down in one gulp. Rin licked her dry lips, shrinking into the side, not daring to move. Hina suddenly said, Yui, did you hear that? She has absolutely no intention of bringing the 2 of us along. We can't pin all our hopes on her. Yui was swayed by the 2, her heart turning bitter. Then, what should we do? Hina coldly swept a glance at Mei, finding that she wasn't paying attention to the 3 of them. Doesn't she want to trade for weapons? Then let her trade. Once she gets them, we will snatch the weapons from her hands. I'll go over to strike up a conversation first and take the chance to grab her arms. The two of you will be responsible for snatching the weapons. But let me say this first. That steel pipe must be given to me. Is that okay? Rin asked timidly. If you can't do it, just stay on the side. Being so dragon and hesitant, you deserve to starve to death. Yui snapped with another low shout. Rin shared a dorm with them. Though she was a child from the countryside, she didn't have any dark skin or calluses left from farm work, and instead was even fairer than the rest of them. Yui had never had a good temper with her. Rin's heart was filled with conflict, but she could only clutch the corner of her clothes and stop speaking. We have at least some acquaintance, and you won't give even a single discount? Mei was a bit annoyed. She was a great beauty after all, yet after more than 10 minutes, this iron-willed straight man Kazuki wouldn't even cut her a break. But the items on me are just this much. Tell me what to do then. Mei simply laid out her chips and gave up haggling. Kazuki pondered for a moment. If you can get usable cell phones, I can also trade with you. Right now, communications haven't been cut, but not even emergency numbers can go through. Mei couldn't fathom what Kazuki wanted phones for, but for her, as long as it could be traded, it was enough. What's the exchange ratio? 5 phones offset 1. Level 0 mutated material. Deal. But you must keep your word. Mei didn't hesitate at all, picking up her steel pipe to head out. Behind her, Hina and the other two immediately jumped up. Where are you going? Don't leave us behind. Mei remembered something and stopped, turning around to look at Hina and the other two. Give me the phones of you three. Unaware of why, Hina turned around and clutched her handbag tightly. But we need phones to wait for rescue. You can't take this away. The world is ending and you're still counting on a rescue team? 3 cell phones in exchange for 3 pieces of bread. Yes or no? Give me one word. Then we'll swap. The 3 were truly too hungry. Swapping their phones for food, they immediately began to wolf it down. But Rin had only chewed 2 bites before Yui snatched her bread away and split it equally with Hina. Rin used the tip of her finger to, bit by bit, gather the breadcrumbs from the floor, her eyes entirely filled with misery. Mei took all of this in, but showed no expression, turning around to leave the room. Hina hurriedly stood up. Where are you going? We'll follow you. But Mei coldly pushed her back. I was only responsible for killing the zombies at your dormitory door. I didn't agree to be your full-time nanny. None of you follow me anymore. Mei turned and went out, failing to see the resentment in the eyes of Hina and Yui. What now? Yui looked toward Hina. Hina gritted her teeth. Staying here means dying sooner or later. Chapter 21. Can you do a small favor? Finding phones in the dormitory building wasn't hard. What was hard was finding usable phones. After the global digitalization, apart from the players' phones, most of the phones belonging to people who turned into zombies could not be used due to digitalization errors. Mei first rushed into various dormitories to gather the phones of deceased players, and then she could only search for them on the zombies. But among the 20-plus zombies she had resolved in the corridor, she only found 7 usable phones. Did you find out that usable phones aren't that easy to find? Kazuki sent a message with a hint of a chuckle. If it were that easy, Kazuki would have done it himself long ago, Mei snorted. Anyway, we agreed. 5 phones offset 1 mutated material. You must keep your word. Hearing the stubbornness in Mei's tone, Kazuki also reined in the teasing look on his face. Up until now, apart from him, not a single player knew what these mutated materials were used for. Yet Mei, just because of a single word from him, was risking going out to painstakingly search for usable phones, simply to save a mutated material of unknown use. This level of prudence made even Kazuki have to offer a word of praise. One must know that the vast majority of people, even if told that phones could be used as an offset, would fundamentally not choose this method, because going out meant increasing their risk of running into zombies. Arriving at the 6th floor, Mei knocked on the first dormitory door. Suddenly, a loud thud came from inside the room. Clearly, the zombies inside heard the commotion and threw themselves against the door. Following that, the roars of the zombies and the sound of nails scratching the wooden door erupted inside, making anyone who heard it feel an itch all over. 2 zombies? Not bad. Mei turned the doorknob and instantly retreated. A female zombie smashed open the main door and pounced out, but she used too much force and crashed directly to the ground. Ignoring the fallen zombie, Mei swung her steel pipe in a wide arc toward the open door. The second zombie, rushing out of the room, seemed to have rehearsed it perfectly. its forehead meeting May's swinging steel pipe head-on. Its face was smashed into a bloody mess as it fell backward onto the ground. The first female zombie still wanted to crawl up, but May rushed forward and stepped hard on her back to pin her down, the steel pipe cracking her head twice to shatter it. But before she could lower her head to harvest, a violent impact suddenly resounded from the dormitory behind her. The door that hadn't been tightly closed was instantly burst open, and a female zombie pounced at May from behind. May's brain buzzed, but the zombie had already pounced. She could only turn her body to block hard. The female zombie tackled May to the ground and bit down, biting right onto the steel pipe May had raised. With a loud crack, teeth shattered. Smelly, thick blood and saliva wrapped around the broken teeth, dropping onto May's chest. Yet this female zombie was still tearing frantically like a wild dog, as if trying to bite the steel pipe right in half. "Get off me!" May kicked her away, raised her steel pipe, and with a series of cracks, smashed her head to pieces. The severely deformed head of the female zombie slumped over, and May went forward to add 2 more strikes to ensure complete death. Pant, pant, pant. May's breathing was heavy, and hot sweat poured down. "Did you run into danger? Why aren't you replying to messages?" Kazuki's message appeared. May took a long breath. "Just ran into a bit of trouble, almost got ambushed from behind by a zombie." "Was it because when you were clearing the front, the room door behind you wasn't tightly shut, and the zombie inside rushed out?" "How did you know?" May looked astonished. "Guessed it." In reality, this was Kazuki's experience as a scout from his past life, whenever entering an unfamiliar location to search for supplies. Before entering any door, Kazuki would always ensure the safety of the corridor and the rooms behind him. This was also the mistake that newbies were most prone to making. For the sake of successfully obtaining his energy fragments, cell phones, and mutated materials, Kazuki felt that he should provide some appropriate remote guidance. I'll give you a few pieces of advice. First, before conducting any exploration, you must ensure the safety behind you. This way, even if an unexpected situation arises during the exploration, you will at least retain a sliver of hope for a retreat. Second, a girl's strength is usually on the weaker side, so you will suffer a disadvantage in a head-on confrontation with zombies. Aim for an opportunity to attack their lower body first to make them fall to the ground. Then, seek a headshot on your second strike. The success rate will be much higher than if you try for a direct headshot. Third, prepare something like a dagger on your waist or calf. If you really get tackled by a zombie, pull this thing out immediately and pierce the zombie's eye socket or temple. It can save your life. Fourth, always maintain a shred of vigilance toward human players. This is because the vast majority of zombies will only pounce from the front, while those who like to stab you from behind are solely humans, and those who like to return kindness with ingratitude are also humans. May suddenly recalled Kazuki's on-the-spot response when the apocalypse arrived. A normal person would have instinctive panic or even flee when encountering such a thing. Yet Kazuki had calmly judged the situation. He had boldly hunted the zombies and even executed the infected without hesitation. Looking back now, every single point indicated that he was absolutely an old hand at the apocalypse. And now, through her own practice during this period of time, May knew that the 4 points of experience Kazuki told her were incredibly correct. This suddenly made May curious about Kazuki. "Where did you learn all of this?" May suddenly asked. Kazuki was too lazy to talk nonsense. "You better hurry up. 2 people have already looked for me. If you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else." "Save it for me!" May immediately quickened her pace. Following Kazuki's combat guidance, her efficiency was indeed much higher, and it saved her a lot of strength. After sweeping through more than a dozen dormitories, she finally accumulated enough cell phones. May slipped into a clean dormitory, double-locked the room door, and slapped a trade request straight onto Kazuki's screen. "Check the goods!" 25 cell phones were placed onto the trading window, and everything was substituted with phones. "You actually found this many cell phones." Kazuki's face showed a pleasant surprise. During this period, he had also been deliberately collecting cell phones, but his accumulation wasn't enough yet. He had not forgotten the death messenger that would arrive in 72 hours. These cell phones were the hidden trump cards specially prepared for the death messenger. Within the trading column, Kazuki could remotely check the quality of each phone. The battery levels were all above 50%. And they could be used as soon as they were factory reset. It was even more satisfactory than he had imagined. May probed, "If it's all right, let's trade." "Hold on." Kazuki placed the gloves up, and the two completed the trade. The traded items were placed into each other's survival spaces. Kazuki suddenly smiled and said, Right now, you should be hiding in the School of Broadcasting's girls' dormitory building, right? How did you know? May, who was checking the gloves, was startled by his words. Apart from the dormitory buildings, where else could someone obtain so many cell phones in a short time? Furthermore, everyone on them liked to make their photoshopped photos into phone lock screens. Apart from the arts department, it has to be your broadcasting department. A slight smile suddenly rose at the corner of May's mouth. Wrong. All beautiful women like to do that. Changing the subject, Kazuki said, "Let me discuss something with you. Seeing as we're practically half comrades in arms, could I trouble you to do a small favor? Help rescue me out of here." Chapter 22. This is already the apocalypse. This was the thought that popped into Kazuki's head after seeing the cell phones. The broadcasting department's girls' dormitory building was only a 5-minute walk from the library. If May could really help him draw the zombies away, then he wouldn't have to spend several hours here, waiting for the zombies to disperse. At this moment, time was more precious than any piece of equipment. May was slightly surprised. After all, she had witnessed Kazuki's formidable strength with her own eyes. The zombies capable of trapping Kazuki were absolutely not something she could deal with on her own. But on second thought, she didn't necessarily have to kill these zombies. As long as she drew most of them away, Kazuki should be able to run out on his own. Thinking of this, May agreed. Then it depends on how much appearance fee you provide. If it's enough, it's not impossible. Kazuki's eyes lit up. I'll give you the simple knife card as an appearance fee. This thing can greatly enhance your self-defense. Am I lacking your small knife? May's smile became increasingly obvious. Give me your crowbar and helmet, and I will go help you draw the zombies away. Kazuki thought about it and nodded. Although the crowbar and helmet were both important to him, time was more important. He could just look for equipment again. Deal. Kazuki traded the crowbar and helmet to May in advance. May happily made a simple sling for the crowbar, slung it diagonally behind her back, and put on the helmet. Where are you? I'll go find you right now. The girls. Restroom on the 5th floor of the library. But be careful, the corridors outside are full of zombies. If you draw them away from afar, I can come out. I'll handle it myself. May closed the dialogue box and stood up. Suddenly, a knock came from the door. Outside the peephole were none other than Hina and the other two. May asked vigilantly, "How did you find this place?" "May, the 3 of us are too hungry. Please be kind, open the door, and share some food with us." May frowned slightly, but since she had already agreed to go find Kazuki, she simply opened the door, holding her steel pipe to push Hina aside. "I already gave you food. If you haven't eaten enough, go find some yourselves." Seeing the gloves, helmet, and even an extra crowbar in May's hands, the rage in the hearts of Hina and Yui instantly erupted. They didn't know what kind of price May had paid, much less that May had used the cell phones she had painstakingly collected herself for the trade. In their eyes, these must have been exchanged using food and water, and these things should have originally belonged entirely to them. Yet now, May actually wanted to throw them off and possess these things all by herself. Rage surged into their minds, and the last shred of cowardice was immediately thrown to the back of their heads. Hina suddenly lunged forward and grabbed May's right arm. "Quick, move! Grab her and take the weapons!" Yui also rushed forward at the same time. How could May alone match the sudden attack of 2 people? She was instantly pinned to the ground. "Let go of me!" May struggled frantically. But Yui and Hina each stepped on one of May's hands. Hina said angrily, "Rin, what are you standing there frozen for? Hurry up and snatch the steel pipe from her hand." Okay. Rin instinctively grabbed the steel pipe in May's hand with both hands, but May simply would not let go. "Let go!" Hina viciously kicked May in the abdomen. May instantly curled up in pain, and the steel pipe was finally snatched away by Rin. Meanwhile, Yui and Hina also used removed shoelaces to tie May's hands securely. Taking the opportunity to snatch the crowbar off her back, and with the weapons gone and her hands tied up, Hina and Yui could finally relax completely. They dragged May into the dormitory and locked the door tight. "I saved you guys, yet you returned my kindness with ingratitude." May gnashed her teeth in hatred, but Yui had a face full of pleasure from getting her revenge. "What kind of fucking kindness do you have for us? We were just being polite with you, and you actually took all the food for yourself? You really think you're somebody? Trying to dismiss us with 3 lousy pieces of bread." Hina stepped on May's chest, flipped up her helmet, and slapped May across the face. "Little bitch, hand over the rest of the equipment. Food, water, and energy fragments on your person, otherwise don't blame us for being ruthless." May's sharp gaze glared toward Hina. "Want my supplies? In your dreams. This gaze unconsciously made Hina feel a chill, but in the next second, another slap landed on May's face. The best way to resolve fear was to use violence to dispel the source of the fear. With this slap, Hina was instantly no longer afraid, and a wave of satisfaction surged into her heart. So the feeling of robbing someone else's things was actually this pleasant. Furthermore, in the apocalypse, no one cared about what they did. They could do whatever they wanted. Hina felt as if something inside her heart had suddenly shattered. A strange restlessness suddenly surged into her heart. She turned back, grabbed the steel pipe from Rin's hands, held it high above her head, and aimed it at May's arm. You have no choice. If you don't bring the things out right now, I will kill you. I mean what I say. Hina's sudden outburst frightened both Yui and Rin. Yui froze on the spot, while Rin rushed forward and grabbed Hina tightly. Hina, what are you doing? Are you trying to kill someone? You guys said you only wanted to rob her things. You didn't say anything about killing her. But Hina pushed Rin away with force. Swinging her hand, another slap struck Rin down to the ground. What if I want to kill someone? Anyway, it's already the apocalypse now, and no one cares. You guys also know how expensive the things that Kazuki sells are. This thief traded for several pieces of equipment. How much food and water must that have cost? Maybe the food and water we collected from the entire floor were all used up by her. These originally belonged to us and could have let us live for a long time. But now they're gone, and we'll have to wait for death. Or would you rather go outside to deal with those man-eating zombies? In any case, I'm not willing to. I don't want to die, so someone else has to die. Hearing this, a wave of coldness flashed through May's heart. She suddenly remembered the experience Kazuki had just imparted. Always maintain a shred of vigilance toward human players. This is because the vast majority of zombies will only pounce from the front, while those who like to stab you from behind are solely humans. Those who like to return kindness with ingratitude are also humans. Anyone at any time can turn into a man-eating beast. At this moment, May finally understood the meaning behind Kazuki's words. But May did not sit still to await her death either. Her tightly bound palms slightly gripped something, and her eyes revealed a coldness of fighting to the death. Since it's a game, if I kill you, the things in your survival space should drop out too, right? Hina's pupils suddenly revealed a streak of morbid madness. She suddenly swung the steel pipe and smashed it down fiercely. Hand the things over to me! Chapter 23. What has the strong smell of blood attracted? Don't! Rin rushed over at the critical moment and held Hina tightly. With a loud crash, the iron pipe brushed past May's head and smashed into the floor. This commotion alarmed the zombies in the surrounding dormitories. They began to slap the doors and roar wildly, but they were all inside the rooms and couldn't come out. Hina was startled, and the steel pipe dropped to the ground with a clang. Rin immediately pounced forward, gathered the steel pipe into her arms, and retreated fearfully behind Hina. Hina, are you crazy? Yui retreated in panic, as if Hina had turned into some kind of monster that terrified her. No, I was just too excited just now. Hina didn't know what was happening either, looking at her own hands as they trembled involuntarily. Suddenly, with a muffled thud, a spray of blood splattered out. Absent of warning, a shower of blood covered Hina. Hina lifted her head, only to see Yui's skull deeply caved in as her face was filled with horror. With a thud, she collapsed into a pool of blood. Meanwhile, Rin, who was originally standing behind the two of them, was holding the blood-stained steel pipe. At this moment, she seemed like an entirely different person, radiating a frantic killing intent. Furthermore, both of her eyes were locked tightly onto Hina. Rin, shut up! I've had enough of your voices. Following that, amid Hina's dumbfounded gaze, Rin swung the steel pipe down toward Hina's head. Thud. Hina also collapsed into the pool of blood. A large hole smashed open on her forehead. Blood poured out in torrents, and her body was twitching violently and uncontrollably due to nerve damage. Rin looked down at Hina from above, bearing the thrill of a great revenge. But Hina still had a trace of consciousness left, spitting out blood as she said, Rin, don't. Just because my family is from the countryside, you guys ganged up to bully me. When I went out at night to tutor outside students, you guys said I was going out at night to sell myself, saying I was a hooker outside, making everyone despise me. I just wanted to get my graduation certificate. Properly to find a good job and make money. What did I do wrong? On what grounds do you bully people like this? As Rin spoke, she began to wail loudly. She vented all the resentment that had been in her heart over the years. But you're right, there isn't enough food and water here. Even if we kill May, there would still be 3 of us. If the two of you die, I should be able to live for a long, long time by myself. So you all must die. These belong to me alone. They are all mine. 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 A deep terror emerged in Hina's eyes. Everything is yours. I won't dare to bully you in the future. Spare me. But Rin held the steel pipe high like a goddess holding high a sword of victory. Hey, so you guys know how to beg for mercy too? Is begging for mercy useful? Thud, thud. The steel pipe fell, and Hina's skull was shattered. Next was Yui, who was breathing her last. Rin was like a lunatic, smashing the heads of the two until they were unrecognizable before she stopped. This showed how much she hated the two in her heart. Throughout the entire process, Mei sat in the corner of the dormitory watching coldly. There was no fear, no cowardice, and no emotion whatsoever, as if everything before her eyes had nothing to do with her. From the very beginning, she had noticed that something was wrong with Rin. Although in a garbage school like Haicheng University, bullying roommates and girls, dormitories for various reasons was nothing new. Every time Rin was bullied, a spark of fire would rise in her eyes. It was the fire of revenge. Mei was very familiar with this feeling, because she was also this kind of person and had experienced certain things. Rin turned her head, and the two pairs of eyes met. Strange, you don't seem to fear me, but I can feel it. We are the same kind of person. Having vented the malice stored in her heart, Rin's entire person became radiant. She smiled as she walked toward Mei. I have no grudge or enmity with you. As long as you take out all your things, I will let you go. If it were anyone else, they would probably agree immediately, but Mei's eyes narrowed slightly. This was because she saw that Rin's right hand gripping the steel pipe had not loosened at all. Instead, she was gripping it tighter. Rin had no intention of letting her go. She was merely unsure whether things would drop out after killing someone, so she wanted to trick her into handing the things over beforehand. Once handed over, it would be death. Yet a look of pleasant surprise appeared on Mei's face. But you have to untie me first before I can give you the things. Rin instinctively frowned, but thinking that the steel pipe was in her own hands and Mei couldn't pull off any tricks, she nodded and bent down, preparing to untie the shoelaces. Right at the moment she squatted down, Mei, whose hands were originally tied, suddenly lunged toward Rin and a cold gleam flashed in her hand. Want it? In your next life! Slash! The cold gleam suddenly swept across Rin's neck, and with a squirt, blood sprayed out. Rin clutched the wound on her neck, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop the blood spraying from the wound. In her final moments, her blurry vision caught the cold gleam in Mei's hand. It was a butterfly knife. It was a butterfly knife that Mei had originally picked up on the playground and hidden in her chest. It was Kazuki's earlier advice that allowed her to calmly think of this hidden trump card at the final moment. At the critical juncture, it saved her life. Killing someone made Mei gasp for breath. She had killed someone. This time it wasn't a zombie, but a real human being. But if Rin didn't die, the one who died would be herself. She had no choice. A streak of fiery red was present in Mei's eyes. That was the desire to live, burning like a fire in her eyes. Even when Hina attacked, Mei had originally intended to strike back. It was just that under the circumstance of 3 people, she didn't have 100% confidence that she could kill them all. At this time, she saw the massive shift in Rin's eyes, and she also saw the steel pipe Rin had quietly raised. She was the final winner. Pant, pant, pant. After heavy gasping, Mei stood up, picked up all the equipment, and slung them on again. Harvesting the bodies of the 3, Hina's and Yui's survival spaces were filled with useless cosmetics, while Rin had actually hidden 3 bottles of mineral water and a pack of biscuits. Being delayed like this consumed a full 20+ minutes. Taking a look at the chat channel with Kazuki, Kazuki's message still remained at 15 minutes ago. Why aren't you replying again? You didn't take my crowbar and run away, did you? Mei hurriedly replied, sorry, ran into a bit of trouble just now. I'm heading over right now, wait for me. Sprinting down the stairs, Mei dashed through the darkness toward the library. Although she didn't consider herself a good woman, aside from sleeping around, she didn't lack experience fighting and clawing with other girls at school. She, Mei, kept her word. Since she had promised to rescue Kazuki, she would definitely not back down. You're not dead, right? If you're not dead, give a shout. Don't play dead. If you keep playing dead, I'm really not going. Speak? Mei didn't forget to send messages to Kazuki while sprinting. But strangely, Kazuki, who used to reply in seconds, was currently as silent as a dead man. A succession of more than a dozen messages disappeared like mud into the ocean, without a single echo. He couldn't really be dead, right? May quickened her pace, seeing that the library was right ahead. The long silent window finally showed a message, but Kazuki sent only a few short words. "Don't come. Stay away from the library." Right at the moment she received the message, May entered the open ground in front of the library. Suddenly, she heard a earth-shattering roar by her ear, and a bloodthirsty pressure abruptly enveloped her. The aura was completely filled with the oppressive feeling of a top-tier predator. That roar, which felt like the wrath of heaven, scared her so much she almost collapsed to the ground. What on earth is that? Meanwhile, in the girls' restroom at the end of the 5th-floor corridor, Kazuki was lying inside the ventilation shaft, doing his level best to hold his breath. 5 minutes ago, he had suddenly felt a terrifying throb approaching. His perception once again issued a warning to Kazuki. This throb was difficult to describe, but it made Kazuki's body instinctively begin to tremble. Kazuki sharply entered a state of alert. He immediately looked toward the opening of the ventilation shaft he had climbed up through. No zombies were climbing up. Then, where did the danger come from? Suddenly, a muffled roar came from below, echoing throughout the entire 5th floor of the library. Immediately after, a heavy footsteps resounded. Thud. That was the corridor. Something was approaching this way from the corridor. The sound transmitted through the ceiling, and the ventilation shaft was already distorted, but these footsteps indicated that the fellow coming over was absolutely a giant. At the same time, the roars of the zombies also erupted. But within these roars, Kazuki could clearly hear a hint of warning, but simultaneously, there was actually a sort of natural dread. They were defending their prey, yet they were fearing the object before their eyes, as if lower-order mutants had encountered their top-tier predator natural enemy. Kazuki swallowed his saliva and hurriedly sent a message to May. What has this strong smell of blood attracted? Chapter 24, Death Approaches. A chaotic roar suddenly erupted below. The mysterious monster had clearly already engaged in battle with the zombie horde in the corridor. However, the zombies couldn't stop this fellow's advance at all. The sounds of battle rapidly closed in on the restroom here. Erg. A muffled roar erupted, and the blast of air rushed into the restroom, turning into a chaotic vortex of air, even blowing into the ventilation shaft where Kazuki was hiding. The foul stench made Kazuki unable to resist covering his mouth. Boom! Suddenly, a bursting sound exploded beneath Kazuki. A massive vibration transmitted to Kazuki through the wall, and the entire ventilation shaft shook violently. This mysterious monster actually smashed the narrow restroom door to pieces in a single move, barging into the restroom and beginning to slaughter in all directions inside. The roars of zombies, the booming sounds of smashing, the snapping of bones, and even the sound of entire heads being squeezed to bursting. All the sounds mixed together made Kazuki's scalp go numb. A picture consciously surfaced in his mind, a massive monster charging into the horde, killing its way from the corridor all the way to the girls' restroom, following the smell of blood, with numerous zombies being crushed one by one in its hands along the way. Just now, its huge body crashed through the wall, trapping the final small handful of zombies inside the restroom, beginning the final slaughter. The battle below was still continuing, and the sounds of bones breaking rose and fell. Kazuki discovered that the roars of the zombies were weakening rapidly. Kazuki knew that for the zombies to make this kind of howling meant they were already thoroughly terrified and wanted to flee, yet they found it difficult to escape. Facing this thing, even the zombies felt despair. Finally, along with the sound of the last head bursting, peace returned below. A full several hundred zombies had been entirely slaughtered by the mysterious monster in less than 10 minutes. This combat power was absolutely superior to the Tier 1 stalker encountered just now. Horrific chewing and swallowing sounds appeared. This mysterious monster began to enjoy the prey it had snatched. The sounds of skulls being chewed like candy pieces rose and fell, like a nightmare symphony. Kazuki suddenly felt a hair-raising sensation, because he could tell from the sound that this monster was not only eating humans, but it had actually not spared the zombies either. Hiding inside the ventilation shaft, Kazuki covered his mouth. Lying inside the ventilation shaft, Kazuki covered his mouth, not even daring to breathe loudly. I never heard of such a monster existing on campus in my past life. Kazuki searched back and forth through the memories in his mind, but there was fundamentally no answer. In his memory, the stalker he had killed was already the most formidable existence on campus. Facing this monster, Even Kazuki didn't have the slightest chance of winning. A muffled roar erupted, and the blast of air rushed into the restroom, turning into a chaotic vortex of air, even blowing into the ventilation shaft where Kazuki was hiding. The foul stench made Kazuki unable to resist covering his mouth. This fellow was full. Crash! Following a loud crash of a wall shattering, the sound of flowing water appeared, along with gulping, swallowing sounds. From beginning to end, Kazuki didn't dare to poke his head out to steal a glance. A powerful mutant's perception attribute would absolutely not be low. Any slight movement could lead to being discovered. But even though Kazuki had already been this careful, he was still noticed as being unusual by this ghostly thing. A massive suction sound traveled from beneath Kazuki into the ventilation shaft. Clearly, this fellow had discovered something.